Chapter 53. Big Miss, the hot water is ready, you can go now. Mother Qing warmly called at the door. When she was boiling water for Yurui, she guessed that Big Miss should also use hot water, so she also boiled it. Got it? Yijioga answered. For the first time, she hated Mother Qing's quick hands and feet. I will wait for you in the bath. Zishang lowered his head and bit Yijioga's face, then disappeared. Yijioga sat in the same place for a moment, and finally accepted her fate, took a new set of clothes and walked to the bathroom. The bathroom was filled with smoke. Zishang was lying comfortably in the bath, with his arms spread out, supporting the back. His coquettish and handsome face was more attractive because of the steam, his red lips were red, and his black hair was wet, sticking to the side of his handsome face, indescribably charming. The pair of purple vertical pupils stared at Yijioga, as if looking at his prey. Yijioga inexplicably felt a sense of oppression, put her hand on the lapel a few times, but still did not have the courage to take it off, simply clenched her teeth and jumped into the bath with the clothes on. The water in the bath was only up to the waist. Yijioga leaned on the edge of the bath farthest from Zishang and looked at him. Zishang hooked his snake tail and hugged Yijioga in his arms, put his thin lips on her ear and asked with a low and charming voice, "How can you bathe with clothes on?" Just like this. Yijioga splashed the water on her body, wanting to splash it on Zishang's face. But before the water droplet touched Zishang's face, it had already frozen in the air, and finally splashed on Yijioga's face with double the amount of water. Voila! Yijioga was splashed with hot water all over her face, the wet dress tightly stuck to her body, and the little dowdu in front of her chest was stimulated by the hot water. What are you doing? Yijioga angrily wiped the hot water on her face. Helping you bathe. Zishang looked innocent. Go away, you don't need to be meddlesome. Yijioga was wet anyway, so she sat in the bath and splashed water. Zishang shamelessly leaned on Yijioga, squinted his eyes and smiled. Then shall we drink blood first or kiss first? Drink blood. Yijioga raised her middle finger. She had thought that drinking blood would be a simple task. Who would have thought that Zishang could make drinking blood so sensational? After putting Yijioga's finger in his mouth, he repeatedly rubbed her fingertip with his sharp teeth. That pair of dark purple eyes seemed to have grown hooks, as if they were going to hook her heart out. Yijioga's heart couldn't help but skip a few beats. In order to cover up her embarrassment, she deliberately scolded him in an angry voice. Drink, drink, don't dawdle. Understood. Zishang smiled charmingly, and his sharp teeth instantly pierced through the skin on her finger. Zishang's tongue was unbelievably soft. His slightly forked tongue licked her wounds back and forth, sometimes fast and sometimes slow, sometimes heavy and sometimes light. Yijioga felt that the water in the bath was really too hot. It was so hot that her mouth was dry and her lips were a little chapped. She desperately resisted the urge to run her tongue over her lips. He wanted to pull his finger back, but he found that his whole body was limp, and he didn't have any strength left. Enough. Yijioga's voice became incomparably hoarse, with a pleading tone that she didn't even notice. Zishang finally let go of Yijioga's pitiful finger. His palm held her slender waist, tightly pressing her against his strong body. That unbelievably beautiful face with an enchanting smile slowly approached Yijioga. Yijioga could even smell the fragrance coming from Zishang's mouth and body. She knew how soft and flexible Zishang's tongue was. When he kissed you, it could completely pull out your soul. Just when Zishang's red lips were about to kiss Yijioga, a clamor suddenly came from outside. Open the door, open the door. Yijioga instantly woke up from the ambiguous atmosphere created by Zishang. Damn it. Zishang cursed in a low voice. It was so hard to get intimate, but someone actually came to ruin it. He really wanted to kill everyone in the Yi mansion. What should he do? Zishang suppressed his bloodthirsty thoughts, and his figure flashed back to the mark on Yijioga's hand. At this time, Mother Qing's anxious voice came from outside the bath. Eldest Miss, Madam and Second Miss brought a group of people over, saying that they want something from you. Got it. Yijioga splashed water on her face, and after she sobered up, she got out of the bath. After she put on her clothes and walked out of the bathroom, she asked Mother Qing in a low voice, "Where are you and fourth sister?" This old servant has already hidden them. Ever since Yijioga bought Yu back, Mother Qing had been thinking about how to help eldest Miss hide her wild man every day. Later, she came up with the idea of making a few secret cabinets in her room. If someone really came to catch them in the act, she would hide Yu in the secret cabinet, and when the time came, she would say that she found him to relieve her boredom. Now that those secret cabinets were finally put to use, they were just right to hide Yu and Yurui. Yijioga nodded, and then led Mother Qing to open the door to the courtyard. They saw Su Yufeng and Yi Shanshan standing outside the courtyard with a group of servant women. "What is the meaning of this, madam and second sister?" Yi Jioga raised her eyebrows and glanced at the mother and daughter with an unfriendly expression. "Yi Jioga, let me ask you, where did you put His Highness the Crown Prince's jade pendant?" Yi Shanshan's eyes widened, and she pointed at Yi Jioga and scolded. "What jade pendant? How come I don't know what you're talking about?" Yi Jioga frowned, and his acting was very good. "You still have the face to quibble? After the Crown Prince met you today, the jade pendant that he always carried with him disappeared, and you still dare to say that you didn't take it?" Yi Shanshan acted as if she had seen Yi Jioga steal the jade pendant with her own eyes. "Yi Shanshan, you need evidence to speak. If you dare to falsely accuse me again, do you believe that I won't slap you?" Yi Jioga raised his hand and waved at Yi Shanshan. The Crown Prince took so long to question her, which meant that he didn't discover the jade pendant was missing on the spot, and shouldn't suspect her. Moreover, she had purposely wiped the 1,000 miles fragrance that the Crown Prince left on the jade pendant on Yi Shanshan's dress. If the Crown Prince wanted to suspect someone, he should suspect Yi Shanshan. When Yi Shanshan saw that Yi Jioga was angry, she couldn't help but shrink behind Su Yufeng. Just now, the Crown Prince suddenly sent someone to find her, and specifically asked if she had seen the dragon and phoenix jade pendant that she always carried with her. She saw that the Crown Prince attached great importance to the jade pendant, so she wanted to blame this matter on Yi Jioga. "Jioga, His Highness the Crown Prince's jade pendant is priceless, and suddenly losing it is not a small matter. You should carefully think about it. Let me ask you, after you came back today, where did you go?" Su Yufeng said without batting an eyelid. She didn't come for the Crown Prince's jade pendant, but because the Su family suddenly sent news that the place where Yi Rui was being held had caught fire, and that Yi Rui had been rescued. The first thing Su Yufeng thought of was Yi Jioga, so she hurried over to see what Yi Jioga had to say. Chapter 54. Madam's words are truly ridiculous. It's so late at night, I'm naturally sleeping in the courtyard. If you two mother and daughter have nothing better to do, then come here to slander me, you better give up on this idea. Yi Jioga coldly said. "Who's slandering you?" Yi Shanshan unwillingly retorted, but when she saw Yi Jioga's raised palm, she didn't dare to make a sound. "Jioga, no matter what, since the Crown Prince has already ordered us to investigate, you should cooperate." Su Yufeng looked at the servant behind her and said, "Still not going in? I'll see who dares to come in." Yi Jioga took a step forward. Mother Qing stood behind her with a fierce look. The servant women suddenly didn't dare to move. The eldest Mrs. Cruelty was famous in the Yi mansion. Mother Zhang was only one step away from becoming a spirit practitioner, but her spirit root was crippled. Now she was sent to Zhuangzi to be raised. They didn't think they were more powerful than Mother Zhang. It seems that no one listens to this madam's words. Su Yufeng narrowed her eyes and coldly looked at the servant women behind her. The servant women secretly complained in their hearts. "Madam is not easy to deal with. If you don't go in, then I'll sell you all." Yi Shanshan angrily shouted. In the past, when she and her mother were in the Yi mansion, no one dared to disobey them. But now these servants were really bold and dared to ignore their words. The servant women looked at each other in dismay. If they advanced, they would die. If they retreated, they would also die. However, being beaten was still better than being sold. So they braced themselves and moved forward step by step. Mother Qing's hand flashed with a faint golden light. As long as these servant women dared to cross the boundary, she would immediately throw them out. At this time Yi Yuxuan's voice came from afar. "It's so late, what are you guys doing?" "Father." Yi Shanshan quickly turned her head. She saw Yi Yuxuan hurriedly walking over, followed by Mother Gan and the servant women from the torture room, as well as Song Bai and several guards. Yi Jioga's eyebrows jumped. Needless to say, this Yi Yuxuan must be the helper that Su Yufeng and her mother invited. However, she already placed the Crown Prince's jade pendant in the secret cabinet of Yi Yuxuan's alchemy room. How could he still be so calm? Could it be that he still hasn't discovered that those pills are missing? The gears in Yi Jioga's mind spun rapidly. Today's farce was an opportunity. She could take advantage of the opportunity to blame Yi Shanshan and the Crown Prince for the missing pills. At this moment, Yi Yuxuan had already walked in front of Yi Jioga. He looked around at everyone and said in a dignified manner, "What's going on?" "Father, big sister stole the Crown Prince's jade pendant and refuses to admit it." Yi Shanshan spoke first. "Is that true?" Yi Yuxuan frowned as he looked at Yi Jioga. Although he was asking, his eyes had already determined Yi Jioga's crime. If you want to incriminate someone, you can always find a way to frame them. Yesterday, I only had a few words with His Highness the Crown Prince in the restaurant, and His Highness the Crown Prince falsely accused me of stealing his jade pendant. I wonder what he will accuse me of stealing next. Yi Jioga sneered. It's not just a quarrel. It's you who teamed up with Wan Xiang to bully brother Crown Prince. You even seriously injured him. Yi Shanshan said angrily. However, her words made people feel that the Crown Prince was falsely accusing Yi Jioga because he wanted revenge. If you don't believe me, go ahead and investigate. Otherwise, it'll be hard to explain to the Crown Prince. But how can you just check my courtyard? You have to check the entire Yi mansion. Also, don't let go of father's main courtyard. Otherwise, you will say that I stole something and hid it somewhere else. Alright, it's best to make a big move. It'll be good to let people know that our Yi family, because of the Crown Prince's words, investigated the D daughter like a thief. Yi Jioga's words were like a slap to Yi Yuxuan's face. Yi Yuxuan's face immediately became ugly. Master, don't be angry. Today, Jioga made a move against the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince is lying in bed and can't get up. The Empress is very angry. We are only doing this to appease the Empress and His Highness the Crown Prince. Su Yufeng softly advised. She didn't put the Crown Prince's jade pendant in her heart. She just wanted to take the opportunity to check Yi Jioga's room. The Crown Prince didn't dare tell others that there was a treasure map in the jade pendant. No wonder no one took the jade pendant seriously. After hesitating for a moment, Yi Yuxuan said, Then let's check. Mother Gan, bring some people with you. Yes. Mother Gan hurriedly nodded. These servants are clumsy. I'll do it myself. After Su Yufeng finished speaking, she brought the servants to Yi Jioga's room. Yi Jioga hurriedly followed. Mother Gan and the others could only search other rooms. Only then did Mother Qing let out a sigh of relief and followed Mother Gan. Su Yufeng carefully searched Yi Jioga's room. She wanted to find traces of Yi Rui. In fact, she knew that Yi Jioga wouldn't bring her back. It's most likely that she stayed outside. She just wanted to make sure that Yi Jioga didn't leave tonight. Su Yufeng reached out her hand and touched Yi Jioga's bedding. It was cold. It looked like it had just been changed. She asked with a smile that wasn't a smile. Jioga, why do you need to change your bedding after waking up? How do you know that my bedding was just changed? Did you see it? Yi Jioga coldly retorted. Su Yufeng still wanted to say something. However, she was interrupted by Yi Yuxuan impatiently. If you've seen it, then hurry up and leave. Could it be that he really wanted to find something? Their Yi family can't afford to lose face. Yes. Su Yufeng was sure that Yi Jioga must have gone out tonight. She was not in the mood to continue to stay in Yi Jioga's room. Although she didn't show up when she kidnapped Yi Rui, she still had to find a way to cover up the previous evidence. After Yi Shanshan followed Su Yufeng out of Yi Jioga's room, she said unconvinced, Mom, the other rooms haven't been searched yet. Then you go and search. Su Yufeng said absent-mindedly. Yi Shanshan took her people to Mother Qing's room. Yi Jioga and Mother Qing's hearts were in their throats. They wanted to refuse, but they were afraid of arousing suspicion. So, they could only calm down and follow her. Yi Shanshan just wanted to vent. She randomly knocked in Mother Qing's room. Gradually, she walked to the place where Mother Qing set the secret cabinet. Mother Qing's hand trembled. She wanted to rush to stop them. However, she was stopped by Yi Jioga. It was too late to stop them. Yi Shanshan also studied the secret cabinet. She immediately found something unusual behind the wooden wardrobe. She was shocked. She immediately pointed to the wardrobe and shouted excitedly, Oh, so it was hidden here. Chapter 55. When Yi Yuxuan and Su Yufeng heard Yi Shanshan's words, they looked at Mother Qing. Mother Qing, what are you trying to do by making a secret cabinet in your room? Su Yufeng narrowed her eyes and her well-maintained face showed a touch of ruthlessness. Mother Qing was Yi Jioga's right-hand man. If she could take the opportunity to get rid of her, it would be good. Mother Qing's legs were a little weak. In this situation, even if she said that Yi Yu was her lover, no one would believe her. And the fourth miss, Madam has been falsely accusing Madame Wu of selling her. If she found out that she was in her room, who knows what kind of dirty water she would pour on the eldest miss. Although Yi Jioga's expression didn't change, he was quickly thinking about how to help Yi Yu and Yi Rui. How about saying that Yi Yu was a spirit practitioner that he invited to help find Yi Rui? Jioga, what's going on? Yi Yuxuan faked a cough as if to give Yi Jioga a chance to defend himself. Before Yi Jioga could speak, Yi Shanshan already said, Father, of course, Big Sister asked Mother Qing to make a secret cabinet to store some shameful things. Yi Shanshan finally caught Yi Jioga's sore spot. She was so excited that her face turned red. She immediately ordered Ji Hua, "Smash it for me." Yes. Ji Hua immediately led a group of servant women to open Mother Qing's wardrobe. Behind the wardrobe were two separate secret cabinets. At this moment Yi Yu and Yi Rui were nowhere to be found. Mother Qing's eyes suddenly lit up. She quickly knelt down and hurriedly said, "Master, please understand. In fact, this hidden cabinet was ordered by this old servant by the madam. She was afraid that she wouldn't be able to protect the eldest miss after her death, so she wanted this old servant to help the eldest miss hide some of her belongings so that they wouldn't be taken away by others. Unfortunately, the madam passed away before the hidden cabinet was finished, so she didn't leave anything behind." Mother Qing's words made Su Yufeng and Yi Yushuan's faces change. Especially Yi Yushuan, he still felt a little guilty about Yin Jiaojiao's death. If he hadn't secretly exchanged the 2 bottles of life-saving pills, Yin Jiaojiao wouldn't have died so quickly. On the other hand, Su Yufeng remembered that she had secretly moved a lot of Yin Jiaojiao's things into her storeroom after she entered the house, afraid that Yi Jioga would bring up old scores. "You old cunning slave, don't talk about the former madam. I think you..." Before Yi Shanshan could finish her sentence, she was interrupted by Yi Yushuan. "Stop talking. Isn't it enough to mess around for the whole night? Father." Yi Shanshan pouted unhappily, but Su Yufeng gently tugged at her sleeve. Yi Yushuan was obviously unhappy. It was better not to provoke him at this time. Yi Shanshan could only reluctantly shut up, her eyes still staring at the hidden cabinet. She doesn't believe that Mother Qing, this old cunning slave, made these secret cabinets as a memento. She must have an ulterior motive. Unfortunately, Yi Yushuan's unpleasant memories were evoked by Mother Qing's words just now. He flicked his sleeves and left. Su Yufeng and her daughter couldn't continue to stay in the courtyard, lest Yi Jioga really went crazy and beat them up. After Mother Qing sent the group of people away, she felt that her back was soaked in cold sweat. "Where are they? Where did you hide them?" Yi Jioga asked in a low voice. This old servant hid them in the secret cabinet. Mother Qing did not know how they disappeared. Yi Jioga's heart moved. He hurriedly returned to Mother Qing's room and opened his spiritual eye to scan the surroundings. Indeed, he saw Yi Yu using the invisibility technique to hide under the bed with Yi Rui in his embrace. He never expected that this brat would wake up in time. "It's okay. They are all gone." Yi Jioga hurriedly pulled Yi Yu out. Yi Yu's beautiful face was deathly pale. He wanted to speak but did not have any strength. He had already woken up when Mother gone and the rest came in. He was just about to bring Yi Rui to a safer place to hide when Yi Shanshan suddenly came back. He could only use the last of his spiritual energy to use the invisibility technique to hide under the bed. Yi Jioga saw that Yi Yu's expression was not right. After taking his pulse, she discovered that the yin qi in his body was even stronger. She originally wanted to wait for Yi Yu to recover before talking about selling himself, but it seemed like she could not drag it on any longer. "I have a cultivation technique here. Not only can it dispel the yin qi in your body, it can also raise your cultivation and invisibility technique to the next level. The price is to serve me for 20 years. Are you willing?" Yi Jioga said straightforwardly. A cultivation technique for Yi Yu to sell himself for a lifetime was too long. 20 years was more like it. "All right." Yi Yu did not hesitate to agree. "You're not going to consider it?" Yi Jioga did not expect Yi Yu to agree so straightforwardly. She originally said that if Yi Yu wanted to haggle, he could even take a step back and sell himself for 10 years. "You saved me twice. Especially this time." Yi Yu thought that he was dead for sure. He never expected that not only did Yi Jioga save him, she even wanted to teach him a cultivation technique. Let alone serving him for 20 years, he was even willing to sell himself for a lifetime. A wise choice. Yi Jioga said straightforwardly, "Rest well tonight. I will give you the cultivation technique tomorrow morning." The purple deceased technique was in her mind. She still had to write it down. And Yi Yu nodded. He was also tired today. Yi Jioga went to check on Yi Rui. Seeing that she was still sleeping soundly, he brought her back to his room. Yi Yu arranged for her to stay in her side room. After tonight's farce, Yi Yu believed that Su Yufeng and the others would not search her courtyard again. However, he had to make arrangements for the jade pendant and elixirs as soon as possible. Thus, Yi Jioga changed into his nocturnal clothes and silently made his way to Ink Garden. Ink Garden main room. Yi Shanshan sat beside Su Yufeng and angrily muttered, "Mother, there was clearly a problem with that hidden cabinet. How could you let that old cunning slave off just like that?" "Alright, that's enough." Su Yufeng used her fingertips to press on her swollen and painful temples. She thought about how she had asked Su Junqing to deal with Mother Chiao and her son. She wondered how he was doing. Speaking of which, this nephew of hers was becoming more and more unreliable recently. How many times had she told him to kill Yi Rui, but he just wouldn't listen. He even got someone to save Yi Rui. He was simply trash. Mother, are you alright? Seeing Su Yufeng's ugly expression, Yi Shanshan obediently came over to massage her shoulders. Su Yufeng finally felt a little better. She patted her daughter's small hand and asked, "How are you getting along with the crown prince?" "It's all right. However, ever since Yi Jioga tricked the purple lightning wood away, Big Brother Crown Prince's cultivation has encountered a bottleneck. I'm really worried for him." Yi Shanshan sighed. Seeing that the crown prince was in a bad mood, she also felt bad. "Then you should comfort him. All men like Jiu Flower," Su Yufeng said on her daughter's behalf. "Oh right, His Highness the Crown Prince wants us to help him with something." Yi Shanshan looked at her mother and said hesitantly. Chapter 56. What does the Crown Prince want me to do? Su Yufeng turned around and looked at Yi Shanshan in confusion. "The Crown Prince wants you to ask Father to help you refine a bottle of marrow cleansing and meridian cleansing pills," Yi Shanshan said coquettishly. Even though she was a pill master, her cultivation was only at level 2, so it was impossible for her to refine a level 5 marrow cleansing meridian altering pill. Only the rank 5 Yi Yuxuan could successfully refine it. However, the failure rate of the pill for cleansing the marrow and changing the meridians was very high, and it consumed a lot of effort and energy. The Crown Prince was worried that Yi Yuxuan wouldn't be willing to help, so he wanted Su Yufeng to speak up for him. Su Yufeng hesitated for a moment. If it was any other time, she would definitely be willing to help the Crown Prince. But now that the matter of her framing the 5th concubine could be exposed at any time, she was really not in the mood, so she said, "Your father has too many things to deal with recently. Let's talk about it later." Okay. Yi Shanshan also knew that her father had a lot of opinions about her and her daughter recently, so she didn't say anything more. At this moment, Yi Yuxuan was pacing back and forth in the courtyard. Just now, Mother Qing's words reminded him of the time when he secretly exchanged Yin Jiaojiao's pills. The more he thought about it, the more uneasy he became. He walked to the alchemy room and opened the secret compartment. Who would have thought that it would be completely empty? Not a single bottle of those precious pills had actually disappeared. In the cabinet in the secret compartment, there was only a jade pendant with a dragon and phoenix engraved on it. Yi Yuxuan immediately recognized the jade pendant as the one the Crown Prince carried with him. His head instantly exploded. Damn it. No wonder Su Yufeng and her mother went to investigate Yi Jioga's courtyard with great fanfare tonight. It turned out that they wanted to frame Yi Jioga. His Highness the Crown Prince had hinted to him more than once that he wanted a bottle of marrow and body cleansing pill. It was just that he had been playing dumb all along. The marrow washing meridian changing pill had an auxiliary effect when advancing, especially when refined by Yun Tianwei. The effect was even better. He was reluctant to use it himself, so how could he give it to the Crown Prince? It was no wonder that the Crown Prince had come to plead for Su Yufeng and even invited him to the Gong family to refine pills. It turned out that the Crown Prince had been eyeing pills for a long time. The most hateful people were Su Yufeng and her daughter. They actually helped the Crown Prince to steal his pills and wanted to frame Yi Jioga. Although he hated Yi Jioga, he was not stupid enough to fall for it. Yi Yuxuan fiercely clenched the jade pendant, the veins on his hands bulging. He wanted nothing more than to immediately confront the Crown Prince. However, the Crown Prince had already spread the word that his jade pendant had gone missing. If he went there rashly, not only would he not be able to retrieve the pill, he might even be bitten by the Crown Prince. Just as Yi Yuxuan was wavering between calmness and anger, Songbai asked softly from outside the pill refining room, "Master, Mother Chiao said that she has an urgent matter to see you about. Let her wait for me in the outer hall." Yi Yuxuan put away the Dragon Phoenix jade pendant and left with a dark expression. When he saw Chiao Mama, he couldn't help but be surprised. Mrs. Chiao, who was usually neat and tidy, now had messy hair and ragged clothes, like a crazy woman on the side of the road. "Master, please help this old servant." When Mother Chiao saw Yi Yuxuan, she immediately knelt down with a plop. "What's the matter? Speak properly. Why are you crying?" Yi Yuxuan said with a frown. "Woo, Master, Madam has gone crazy. In order to deal with 5th Yin Yang, she actually let the Su family injure this old servant's son, forcing this old servant to help her frame 5th Yin Yang." Mother Chiao cried. Yi Yuxuan was originally angry because of the pill, but after hearing Mother Chiao's words, he became even angrier. He angrily shouted, "Why didn't you say anything before? This old servant was afraid that Madame would harm this old servant's son, so I didn't dare say anything. Mother Chiu cried until she was out of breath. Damn servant. Yi Yuxuan kicked Mother Chiu. Mother Chiu immediately rolled towards the door like a gourd and fiercely spat out a mouthful of blood. She propped herself up and while spitting out blood she cried out, "Master, Madame has the ambition of a wolf." She also let the Su family kidnap fourth miss and sell her to the black market. She also let this old servant bury 1,000 silver taels and fourth miss's contract in 15 Young's courtyard. This old servant couldn't bear to harm 15 Young again, so this old servant exchanged the silver for stones. Yi Yuxuan trembled with anger. No wonder Su Yufeng and her daughter wanted to help the crown prince steal the pill. It turned out that they wanted him to help harm 15 Young. This was simply going too far. Yi Yuxuan was furious and vented his anger on Mother Chiu. Just as he was about to step forward and kick Mother Chiu again, he found that her head tilted to the side and she was no longer breathing. Yi Yuxuan was shocked and quickly went forward to take Mother Chiu's pulse. He found that she had already died from the poison. This was a familiar scene. Didn't Qin Fuan, who had an affair with 15 Yang, die like this? Su Yufeng. Yi Yuxuan clenched his teeth and hated her to the bone. If Su Yufeng only dealt with 15 Yang and her daughter, he wouldn't hate her to this extent. But she actually dared to help the crown prince steal the pill. This touched his reverse scale. If he didn't ruthlessly deal with Su Yufeng, that bitch would really ride on his head. In Purple Forest Park, Yi Jioga had just changed out of his night clothes when Mother Qing came in with a happy face and said, "Eldest miss, I heard that the master angrily brought people to Ink Garden." So fast? Yi Jioga raised his eyebrows in surprise. She had just set up a trap in Ink Garden and hadn't had time to invite Yi Yuxuan into the trap. Why did he run over by himself? I heard that before Mother Chiu died she complained to the master. Mother Qing said in a low voice. Before death Mother Chiu died? Yi Jioga was shocked. Yes, I heard that she died from poisoning. But this old servant doesn't know the specific situation. I only heard that the master was so angry that he immediately brought Mother Gan and the torture room people to Ink Garden. Let's go and see. Yi Jioga quickly went out with Mother Qing. At this time the sky was already bright. The servants in the sprinkler room were cleaning the various courtyards. From time to time they would gather together and whisper. When they saw Yi Jioga come over they immediately stopped talking and saluted. When Yi Jioga saw the expressions of these people, he knew that they were talking. But it was no wonder because the commotion last night was too big. First, Su Yufeng and Yi Shanshan brought people to her courtyard to fight and kill. Now it was Yi Yuxuan who aggressively rushed to Su Yufeng's courtyard. It was simply a twists and turns. Yi Jioga also met 7th Yinyang at the entrance of Ink Garden. Eldest miss, good morning. 7th Yinyang's hair was combed into a bun and there was a beaded hairpin on her head. She was wearing a green dress with 100 flowers and was as beautiful as a blooming flower on the shore. Ever since Madame and 5th Yinyang fought, 7th Yinyang had been living a comfortable life. The power of managing the household had been firmly grasped in her hands. Su Yufeng probably wanted to put 7th Yinyang in the back to deal with her, so she hadn't touched her. 7th Yinyang was usually very careful and never got close to Su Yufeng. Today she actually came to Ink Garden. It seemed that she already knew about Mother Chiu's matter. Being so well informed, it seemed that this woman was not simple. Chapter 57. Eldest miss, let's hurry in lest we miss a good show. 7th Yinyang said with a smile as if she was very familiar with Yi Jioga. Yi Jioga lightly nodded and took the lead to enter the Ink Garden. As soon as she entered the courtyard she heard Yi Yuxuan's angry scolding. Slut, you still dare to quibble at this point. Do you think that after poisoning Mother Chiu no one will know of your evil deeds? Master, I definitely did not harm 15 Yang and Rui. It was Mother Chiu who slandered me. Su Yufeng cried with incomparable grievance. Not to mention that Mother Chiu was already dead, even if she was still alive she would not admit it. 7th Yinyang stood outside the room and covered her mouth as she laughed. She said to Yi Jioga in a low voice, "At this time Madame is still so stubborn. Does she really think that our master is a fool?" Yi Jioga ignored 7th Yinyang. She secretly glanced at the courtyard and saw Songbai digging out a small box in the west corner. That was the place where she set up Su Yufeng. Songbai immediately brought the small box to Yi Yuxuan. Yi Yuxuan opened the box and saw that it was the jade bottle where he kept the 9 Revolution Soul Return pill, but the pills inside were gone. Slut, what else do you have to say? Yi Yuxuan picked up a jade bottle and fiercely threw it at Su Yufeng's head. Master, I have been wronged. Su Yufeng quickly lay down. The jade bottle flew over her head and smashed into the wall behind her, shattering it into pieces. Seeing that she dared to dodge, Yi Yuxuan went up to kick her. Su Yufeng's servant girl quickly stopped in front of Yi Yuxuan and begged, "Master, please calm down." Scram. Yi Yuxuan kicked the maids and old women, sending them rolling all over the place. Su Yufeng saw Yi Yuxuan's face full of killing intent, as if he wanted to beat her to death. She braced herself and shouted, "Yi Yuxuan, I am your wife, not your servant. If you want to kill me, you have to see if the Su family agrees." Good, good, good. Yi Yuxuan pointed at Su Yufeng and was so angry that his fingers were trembling. He fiercely scolded, "I won't kill you, but our Yi family can't tolerate an evil woman like you. Now scram to the Yi family's ancestral temple and reflect." Yi Yuxuan had basically banished Su Yufeng. Su Yufeng slowly stood up from the ground and her cold eyes swept over Yi Jioga and seventh mistress who were watching the show. Although she knew that Yi Jioga was a difficult character to deal with, she didn't expect that her carefully laid trap would be so easily broken by her. There was also seventh concubine, that bitch. She used to flatter her in every possible way, but now she dared to come and watch the show. She wouldn't let any of these people off. "Madam, please." Gon's mother said respectfully. Su Yufeng straightened her body and followed Gon Mama out. Ji Hua and the others were crying behind them. At this time Yi Shanshan hurried over and immediately stopped Mother Gon. She scolded her angrily, "Bold slave, where do you want to take my mother?" Mother Gon bowed to Yi Shanshan and said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "Second miss, the master ordered this old servant to send the madam to the ancestral temple to recuperate. Please don't stop her." "Mother, what's going on?" Yi Shanshan looked at her mother in disbelief. Why would father send mother to the ancestral temple to reflect on her mistakes? The ancestral temple was built on the outskirts, it was desolate everywhere. It was not a place for people to live. "I'm fine, I'm just going to the ancestral temple to recuperate for a few days." Su Yufeng shook her head at Yi Shanshan, telling her not to panic. Now that Yi Yuxuan was angry, it was useless for her to say anything. It was better to go to the ancestral temple to hide and wait for the Su family to get her out. "It must be you who harmed my mother." Yi Shanshan's fierce eyes fell on Yi Jioga. "Yi Shanshan, the order was given by father. If you want to find someone, find him. Don't act like a mad dog and bite people." Yi Jioga said coldly. Yi Shanshan gritted her teeth, she couldn't wait to strangle Yi Jioga. At this time Yi Yuxuan's angry voice came from inside. "Yi Shanshan, get in here." Yi Shanshan's body trembled. This was the first time her father spoke to her in this tone. Su Yufeng couldn't help but raise her heart. Just a moment ago Yi Yuxuan falsely accused her of stealing pills. She didn't even have time to figure out what was going on. "Madam, let's go," Mother Gon said in a low voice. "If we stay here for too long, I'm afraid the master will be angry." Su Yufeng originally wanted to rush in and argue with Yi Yuxuan, but when she heard Mother Gon's words, she stopped. If she went in now, it would only make Yi Yuxuan even more angry. No matter what, her daughter was Yi Yuxuan's flesh and blood. She was also the future crown princess. Presumably Yi Yuxuan wouldn't dare to do anything to her. "Mother." Yi Shanshan looked at Su Yufeng pleadingly. "Good child, go in." Su Yufeng hardened her heart, turned around and left with Mother Gon. Only then did Yi Shanshan walk into the house step by step. "Eldest miss, what do you think the master wants to do by asking second miss to go in?" Seventh concubine's beautiful eyes looked around and asked in a low voice. "I'm not a father, how do I know what he wants to say to second sister?" He didn't know why, but Yi Jioga always had some vigilance towards seventh concubine. Seeing that there was nothing for him to do in the ink garden, he directly left. Seventh concubine looked at Yi Jioga's back, a sharp light flashed in her beautiful eyes, and she also turned and left. When Yi Jioga returned to Purple Forest Park, Mother Qing happily said, "Eldest miss, the madam was sent to the ancestral temple by the master. Then can fifth concubine be released?" "And I'll go talk to father later and ask him to release fifth concubine," Yi Jioga responded. He didn't expect that today's matters would come together, and Mother Chiu actually came back at this time to complain. Fourth miss will definitely be very happy. Mother Qing was sincerely happy for fifth concubine and her daughter. Although she was very angry that they mistakenly believed the madam before, after this, they will definitely know that eldest miss is the person they can rely on. Yi Jioga prepared to go out and ask Wan Ziang about Mother Chiu's matter, and then think of a way to let Yi Rui come back. But the most important thing now was to quickly write down the cultivation method that Zishang passed on to her. After Yi Jioga wrote down the cultivation method, he took it to Yi Yu's room. When Yi Yu woke up, he only felt that his whole body was sore, like his body was soaked in ice water, and it was very difficult to move his fingers. This feeling was really worse than death. If Yi Jioga didn't say that she had a way to solve it, he was afraid that he would have lost all hope. Yi Jioga saw that Yi Yu couldn't move forward, so she very naturally went forward to help him up, and then stuffed a big soft pillow behind him. Yi Yu smelled the fragrance of a young girl from Yi Jioga, and his somewhat pale face couldn't help but reveal a trace of red. He grew up in the valley, and other than his sister, he had never been so close to other women. Chapter 58. Are you shy? Yi Jioga didn't expect Yi Yu to be so pure and immediately wanted to tease him. Just as she was about to imitate those playboys and pinch Yi Yu's chin to tease him, she heard Zishang's eerie voice. Why don't you try touching him? Daring to tease another man in front of him, did she think he was a dead demon? Tiske. It's so boring to have a demon following her, it affects her mood of seeking pleasure. If you want to seek pleasure, this sovereign will accompany you to the end. Zishang decided that next time, he must let her have enough fun. Yi Jioga sensed something was wrong and didn't dare to answer Zishang's question. She silently took out the booklet that recorded the technique and asked Yi Yu, "Can I read it myself?" "Yes." Yi Yu slowly raised his hand and took the booklet. The first thing he saw was a row of bold words, 3 pure ones in one breath. The handwriting was as hard as iron, as charming as a silver hook, and revealed an imposing aura. "You wrote this?" Yi Yu raised his head and asked in surprise. He thought that girls would usually choose silk flowers to practice their handwriting. He had never seen a girl's handwriting that was stronger than a man's. Of course. Yi Jioga nodded. She had specially practiced her handwriting to be worthy of her 9th brother's name. Yi Yu couldn't help but smile. He felt that Yi Jioga was becoming more and more interesting. When he first met her, he thought she was an ugly woman who was blinded by lust. When he met her again, he found out that she was an extremely talented alchemist. Now he found out that she was a strange woman who didn't care about trifles. Yi Yu always felt that there were many mysteries about Yi Jioga, waiting for him to slowly discover them. "Don't be infatuated with me, I'm just a legend. Focus on practicing your technique," Yi Jioga joked. Yi Yu smiled again and focused on reading the technique. He was immediately attracted by the wonderful technique inside. Yi Jioga saw that Yi Yu was completely immersed in the technique, so she left the room. She brought along the still unconscious Yi Rui. After greeting Mother Qing, she quietly brought Yi Rui to Wan Ziang and Bai Songling's residence. When Bai Songling saw her, she revealed a sly smile like a fox. "I guessed that you would come to find us today. Brother Bai, you truly are a genius." Yi Jioga chuckled. What's going on with Mama Qiu?" After Mother Qiu died, she was sent back to her hometown in a thin coffin by Yi Yuxuan. She couldn't even go to the autopsy. When we found Qiu Dixing, he had already been killed by the Su family. Qiu's mother had just escaped. After knowing that her son was dead, she wanted to avenge her son like crazy, so she took a poison from me and said that she must drag Su Yufeng down with her. Bai Songling sighed slightly. For the sake of her son, Mother Qiu relied on Su Yufeng and betrayed Yi Yuxuan and 5th aunt. She could no longer stay in the Yi family, so she might as well die. The Su family is truly vicious. They kill people at every turn. They don't take human life seriously at all. Yi Jioga thought about how he was almost killed by Yun Yang when he went to the Drunken Cloud Pavilion. It's precisely because their methods are too ruthless that we have no way of catching them. Wan Ziang said solemnly. Heaven's net has a long way to go. One day they will pay for their evil deeds. Bai Songling said with certainty. The Su family has done so many evil things. It's impossible for them to always be smooth sailing. Brother Bai is right. Yi Jioga gave him a thumbs up, then said, "Actually, I came here this time to ask you two for a favor. Just say it, no need to be polite with us." Bai Songling smiled. "You also know that my identity is special. It's really not good for me to bring fourth sister home. So, I want to ask you two to come forward and say that you rescued her from the Su family." Yi Yuxuan was naturally suspicious. If she brought Yi Rui back, he would instead suspect that this was Yi Jioga's plot. But it was different for Wan Ziang and Bai Songling. These two were famous in the Ministry of Justice. They were known for being impartial and impartial. Moreover, they had been investigating the case of the missing girl. It was normal for them to find Yi Rui. Of course, this matter didn't need to go through the Ministry of Justice. Wan Ziang and the others could secretly find Yi Yuxuan under their own names. On one hand, they could make Yi Yuxuan owe them a favor. On the other hand, they could protect Yi Rui's reputation. Although Yi Rui's reputation didn't have much left after Su Yufeng's ruckus, it was still better to protect it. Okay. Wan Ziang agreed without hesitation. Eldest miss, I think it's better for you to wake fourth miss up and tell her the whole story. Bai Songling was more meticulous. He was worried that Yi Rui would mistakenly think that two grown men rescued her. She would have a knot in her heart in the future. Okay. Yi Jioga thought so too. She could forego the credit on the surface, but if Yi Rui didn't even know that she was the one who saved her, how could she ask for favors in the future? Then we'll leave first. Bai Songling stood up and left the house with Wan Ziang. Yi Jioga placed Yi Rui on a chair and fed her a pill to wake her up. Yi Rui swallowed the pill. Her eyelashes fluttered slightly and she slowly opened her eyes. Fourth sister. Yi Jioga called softly. Yi Rui's eyes were half opened. She was a little confused at first, then she seemed to have thought of something. She suddenly hugged her arms and screamed in panic. Go away, go away. Fourth sister, it's me. Yi Jioga hurriedly protected her. He was a little surprised in his heart. Previously, when Mother Qing helped Yi Rui wipe her body, she checked to make sure that she wasn't abused and was still a virgin. Why was she still reacting like this? Eldest sister, why are you here? Yi Rui felt like she was dreaming. Silly girl, this is my friend's place. I've already rescued you. Yi Jioga touched Yi Rui's forehead and realized that it was as cold as ice. Yi Rui looked around and realized that she was no longer in that pitch-black cellar. The tip of her nose was filled with the fragrance of her eldest sister. It wasn't the stench of blood mixed with the stench. She was finally out of that terrifying place. Fourth sister, you tell me, I'll tell you? Yi Jioga told her about how fifth aunt was falsely accused of having an affair and sent to prison. She told her how she used a scheme to clear their innocence. Then she toppled Su Yufeng and sent her to the ancestral temple. In the end, she said, in order to avoid father's suspicion, I asked two friends in the Ministry of Justice to send you home so that we can unravel the Su family's conspiracy. Yi Rui nodded her head forcefully. Her tears flowed down one by one. Eldest sister, if only I listened to you at that time. Silly girl, let's not talk about the past. Just be more vigilant in the future. Yi Jioga patted her little head. Yi Rui nodded her head forcefully. In this life, other than her eldest sister, she wouldn't trust anyone else. Chapter 59. After comforting Yi Rui, Yi Jioga called Wan Ziang and Bai Songling in. Unexpectedly, Yi Rui immediately hid behind Yi Jioga in fear when she saw the two unfamiliar men. Although she wasn't violated in the cellar, she had seen many girls being tortured to death by evil cultivators. Her young heart had already developed a fear and disgust for men. Fourth sister, don't be afraid. This is Wan Ziang and Lord Bai Songling from the Ministry of Justice. They're both my friends, Yi Jioga quickly comforted Yi Rui. However, Yi Rui was still trembling. She didn't dare to raise her head and shrunk herself into a small shrimp. Wan Ziang seemed to have thought of something when he saw Yi Rui like this. His handsome and sculpted face revealed a pained and forbearing expression. Bai Songling seemed to understand Wan Ziang's feelings. He patted Wan Ziang's shoulder and said to Yi Jioga, Eldest miss, we'll go find Grandmaster Yi now and ask him to bring forth Miss Yi back. Before that, you should spend some time with her. Okay. Yi Jioga originally planned to leave Yi Rui with Wan Ziang and Bai Songling before going back. However, it seemed that he couldn't leave now. Eldest sister, if you have something to do, you can go back first. I can handle it alone. Yi Rui raised her head and said timidly. She didn't want to burden Yi Jioga, but her hands couldn't help but grip Yi Jioga's sleeves tightly. I have nothing to do when I go back. I'll stay here with you. If everything goes well, we can probably go back in the afternoon. Yi Jioga patted Yi Rui's hand. Yi Rui finally relaxed, but she still snuggled up to him. Bai Songling and Wan Ziang then went to find Yi Yuxuan. No one knew what they talked about, but Yi Yuxuan soon secretly brought people to bring Yi Rui back. When Yi Rui returned to the Yi mansion, the fifth aunt had already been released from the prison. She hugged her head and cried as soon as she saw her. After crying, the mother and daughter didn't return to Qiushui court. Instead, they returned to the shabby courtyard and prepared to close their doors. As Yi Rui's spiritual root was still there, no one dared to neglect the mother and daughter. Instead, they took the initiative to renovate the shabby courtyard they lived in. Yi Yuxuan even personally wrote a plaque for the courtyard. It was obvious that he hoped Yi Rui's daughter would become a talent. He originally planned to send a few maids from the main courtyard to serve Yi Rui, but the fifth aunt tactfully declined. After what happened with Chio's mother, Yuxuan couldn't force them to accept her. Fifth concubine brought the two servant girls Qing Hu and Qing Lu back to Yao Guangyuan. From then on, they lived a life of not stepping out of the door. Jyoga was practicing the Yi clan's unique secret code. After Yi Yu controlled the yin qi in his body, he taught Yi Jyoga all of the Yi clan's secret codes. After agreeing on a place for emergency contact, he left Purple Forest Park and moved out. You Jyoga, you didn't. At first, Yu Jyoga wanted to tell you that his sister was given away by Su Junqing as a gift. However, he was at a critical moment in his cultivation. Yu Jyoga was afraid that Yu Jyoga would be too excited and go crazy. Yu Jyoga decided to wait until Yu Jyoga refined the yin qi and asked about the treasure map. Just as Yi Jyoga was thinking about when to use these secret codes, Mother Qing walked in with a slightly worried expression and said to her, "Eldest young miss, Qing, who said that fourth young miss is now studying alchemy like a madwoman. Her personality has also become strange and unreasonable. During this period of time she has never smiled even once. Fifth aunt is very worried." "Didn't you tell fifth aunt about fourth sister's situation?" Yu Jyoga asked Qing's mother to hint to fifth aunt that although Yi Rui's body was not violated, her spirit was greatly affected. She should pay attention to it. "I told her, but it was useless. Now Yaoguang Court is gloomy. I'm worried." Qing's mother felt sorry for fourth Mississippi. She was only 7 years old, but she had suffered so much. "It's okay. Fourth sister is tough. She will get better slowly." This kind of thing couldn't be solved with just words of comfort. They could only let time slowly dilute the damage Yi Rui had suffered. "Oh right, eldest miss, seventh aunt often goes to Yaoguang Court to see fifth aunt. Fifth aunt, do you think this old servant should go and remind fifth aunt?" Qing's mother always felt that seventh aunt was not a good person. Yu Jyoga thought about it and said to Qing's mother, "Then you go and mention it to fifth aunt." Seventh aunt was too scheming. She might not have good intentions when she got close to fifth aunt. Okay. Mother Qing decided to talk to fifth concubine later. After Yi Jyoga tidied up her practice book, she sat at the table and drank a mouthful of tea. Then she asked Qing's mother, "How is Yi Shanshan's side recently?" Ever since Su Yufeng was sent to the ancestral temple, Yi Yuxuan announced that Yi Shanshan was seriously ill and forbade anyone from visiting. Even the Su family was closed at the door when they came. "I heard that His Highness the Crown Prince sent someone to visit yesterday. Master said that second miss wasn't feeling well and refused. He didn't even accept the gift. I don't know what second miss did to make Master so angry." Qing's mother said with schadenfreude. What else could it be? He suspected that Su Yufeng and her daughter stole the Crown Prince's pills. Yi Jyoga revealed a proud smile. If she wanted to blame someone, she could only blame the mother and daughter for being too close to the Crown Prince. That was why she could easily arouse Yi Yuxuan's suspicion. He just didn't know when the Crown Prince would find out that his precious jade pendant was with Yi Yuxuan. East Palace Main Hall. The Crown Prince was wearing a luxurious scarlet brocade robe and sat on the seat of honor. He listened to a pretty palace maid report the situation of the visit to the Yi mansion. "Your Highness the Crown Prince, this servant is incompetent. I wasn't able to see second Miss Yi and even the things were returned by the Yi mansion." "Didn't you say that this prince wanted you to personally hand it to second Miss Yi?" The Crown Prince frowned and his face became incomparably gloomy. The pretty palace maid lowered her head even more and said in a low voice, "This servant has already reported it to Master Yi, but Master Yi refused to accept it. He also said, Pa." The Crown Prince heavily slammed the table and angrily shouted, "What else did he say?" The palace maid knelt down with a plop and trembled as she repeated what Yi Yuxuan said. "Master Yi said that men and women should not touch each other. Your Highness, please respect yourself." Damned old man. The Crown Prince was so angry that he trembled. It was clearly that old man who wanted to rope him in, which was why Yi Rui took the initiative to get close to him. Now he made it sound like he was the one who took the initiative to provoke him. "Crown Prince, calm your anger." The pretty palace maid raised her fair and beautiful face. Her breasts were faintly discernible. Her eyes were bright and gentle like water, and her slender waist was as soft as a willow branch. The Crown Prince narrowed his long and narrow eyes, and the evil fire in his body rose together. He roughly pulled the palace maid up and pressed her onto the table. He covered her mouth with his left hand, tore her skirt, and directly went into battle with his spear, venting without restraint. Chapter 60. Although the pretty palace maid felt uncomfortable being pinched by the Crown Prince, she didn't dare to say a word. Ever since she overheard the news that the Crown Prince liked to sleep with women when he was angry, she had been looking for an opportunity to get on the throne, so she deliberately said Yi Yuxuan's words. The Crown Prince was really angry and favored her. Although her body was in pain because of the crown prince, it was worth it if she could be accepted as a concubine by the crown prince. The crown prince vented his anger on the palace maid while thinking about the Yi mansion. Yi Jioga, that bitch, had made him lose face several times. He definitely wouldn't let her go. And Yi Shanshan, although she looked innocent, she was actually a whore. She got close to him to steal his jade pendant. He originally thought that keeping the treasure map in the jade pendant wouldn't be a problem, but he didn't expect it to be leaked. Needless to say, it must have been that thief Su Junqing who found it. He said he would help him ascend the throne, but it was all bullshit. Yi must have been hidden by him. Maybe the other half of the Yi clan's treasure map was already in his hands, so he let Yi Shanshan steal his jade pendant. It was also his fault for being careless. He thought that Yi Shanshan was just a weak woman, but he didn't expect her to be so powerful, silently taking away the jade pendant. If he hadn't smelled the 1,000 miles fragrance on Yi Shanshan's body, he probably wouldn't have found it. But even if the Su clan could get the treasure map, the final victory would definitely belong to him. The crown prince already believed that the treasure map was in Su Junqing's hands, so he wasn't in a hurry. Anyway, he still needed a few pieces to collect, so he could wait until the end to rob the Su clan. But he had recently reached a bottleneck in his cultivation. High-quality marrow and meridian cleansing pills were not easy to find, so he had to find a way to get the purple thunderwood back from Yi Jioga. After the crown prince thought it through, his subordinates also followed suit. He hastily wiped his lower body and prepared to go back to his bedroom to change clothes and see the Empress. "Your Highness." The pretty palace maid softly fell to the ground and weakly called out. The crown prince turned around and glanced at the pretty palace maid who was in a mess. Her wrists and neck were pinched until they were red, and the hem of her clothes was still stained with virgin blood. He coldly ordered in the corner, "Feed her the childless pill and send her to Yeting." This palace maid was unlucky. Because of Yi Shanshan, the crown prince hated scheming women. Naturally, he wouldn't give her a good end. The pretty palace maid suddenly widened her eyes. Yeting was the cold palace where palace maids who had committed crimes went. It was extremely bitter and cold. Even if they didn't die, they would at least lose half of their skin. Just as she was about to beg for mercy, two nannies appeared out of nowhere and covered her mouth. They dragged her away like a sack. After the crown prince bathed and changed his clothes, he went to the Empress Fengyi Palace. The Empress sat on the phoenix carriage, dressed in a bright red palace dress with crab claws and chrysanthemum engraved with gold. In the middle of her high bun was a phoenix spreading its wings ornament inlaid with 6 sides inlaid with jade and 7 jewels of bright gold. Beside it was a small hairpin with a golden phoenix holding a pearl in its mouth and golden wings. Her skin was snow white and her face was delicate. It was impossible to tell that she was a woman in her 40s. "Greetings, mother." The crown prince bowed respectfully. How come you have the time to come here?" Even when the empress was facing her own son, her smile was still proper. The curve of her mouth seemed to be measured with a ruler. "Mother, son has come this time to ask for your help." The crown prince told her about how his cultivation had stopped and how he wanted to take back the purple thunderwood. "Can't you just let Su Yufeng and her daughter handle this matter?" The empress lightly said. If Yi Shanshan wanted to be the crown prince's wife, she had to show some ability. "Mother doesn't know, but Su Yufeng and her daughter have fallen. The night before yesterday, Su Yufeng was sent to the ancestral temple by Yi Yuxuan. Yi Shanshan is now also under house arrest." The crown prince told her about how he had sent people to visit Yi Shanshan but had been rejected by Yi Yuxuan. This mother and daughter pair are really useless. When the empress' face was gloomy, it was very similar to the crown prince's. She saw that Su Yufeng and her daughter had turned Yi Jioga into a notorious ugly trash. She thought that they had some ability, so she tacitly approved of the crown prince and Yi Shanshan's relationship. She didn't expect them to be so useless. "Mother, son has an engagement with Yi Jioga. It's not good for me to brazenly act against him, so I can only ask mother for help." The crown prince had always believed that women's matters should be left to women. He only needed to stand on the side and reap the fruits of victory. The empress lowered her eyes and muttered to herself for a moment. Then she nodded and said, "In 7 days, that bastard will enter the palace to pay his respects to the emperor. At that time let Yi Jioga come in." Although the empress only said half of her words, the crown prince immediately understood her meaning. He hurriedly flattered, "Mother is wise. You too don't put your mind on women. Cultivating more is the right thing to do. In addition, continue to win over Yi Shanshan. After all, the Yi family is an alchemist family. She also has some aptitude. The alchemy competition is about to begin." the empress lightly instructed. Her tone was not heavy, as if she was just chatting. However, the crown prince didn't dare to be the slightest bit negligent. He hurriedly said, "Mother, don't worry. Son understands. Mem, you may leave." The empress nodded and the crown prince left the Phoenix Ritual Palace. He stood at the entrance of the Phoenix Ritual Palace and let out a light breath. Looking into the distance, he revealed a sinister smile. "Yijioga, this prince wants to see how you will escape this time." At this moment, Yijioga was in the Arcade Park visiting Yurui. Previously, when Mama Qing had said that Yurui had gone berserk, Yijioga had not taken it seriously. Now that he had personally come to take a look, he discovered that the matter was somewhat serious. He saw that Yurui was wearing a black cotton gown. Her hair was tied up in a simple bun and secured with a black hairband. Inside the room there were various basic alchemy techniques. On the writing table there were notes that she had copied down. Apart from this, there were no other decorations. It didn't seem like a little girl's room at all. Instead, it seemed like a Taoist nun's courtyard. "Big sister, why have you come?" Only when Yurui saw Yijioga would she reveal a hint of childlike innocence. "I came to see you. Why are you dressed like this?" Yijioga looked at Yurui's old-fashioned attire. At such a young age, she was even more solemn and old-fashioned than the Taoist nuns on the mountain. "This is pretty good." Yurui did not take it seriously. So what if she was dressed nicely? If she met a pervert, she would only die faster. "Eldest young miss, please help me persuade Rui." "She won't listen to anything I say now," the fifth concubine said with a distressed expression. After coming out of the dungeon, it was as if her body had been hollowed out. Her age was extremely obvious. She was not even 30 years old, yet her hair had already turned white. Her brows were filled with worry and she looked sickly. "If mother's words are useful, daughter will naturally listen." Yurui replied indifferently. Every time she saw her mother's weak appearance, she hated the weakness of women even more. Chapter 61. Fourth sister, Fifth Yinyang is your biological mother. How can you talk to her like that? Yijioga frowned. Even though Fifth Yinyang had many faults, she loved her daughter. Yurui's words were too hurtful. Yurui didn't dare to talk back to Yijioga. She kept a straight face and didn't say anything. Her whole body was filled with a sharp hostility. She was a completely different person from the cute and clever girl she used to be. Yijioga was really worried. She heard that children who experienced horrible things when they were young would grow up to be twisted and become one of the perverts. She didn't want Yurui to become like that. She had to think of a way to resolve the hostility in her. Yijioga thought about it and said to Yurui with a smile, "The weather is good these days. How about we go for a walk?" She thought that children loved to play, so it was good to take Yurui out for a walk. "I still have a lot of books to read." Yurui shook her head. To her, reading was more important than playing. "The books won't run away. Let's go out tomorrow." "That's settled." Yijioga didn't give Yurui a chance to refuse. "Okay." Yurui puffed up her face and agreed reluctantly. She didn't dare and didn't want to disobey her big sister who saved her from the abyss of suffering. "Forget it, I'll just accompany big sister to play." "Big miss, where do you plan to take Rui to play?" Fifth Yinyang looked at Yijioga expectantly, as if this trip would immediately make her baby daughter return to normal. "How about going to Putua Temple?" Yijioga blinked. In her limited memory, it was only fun to go to Putua Temple with her mother when she was young. Because the vegetarian food and pastries there were delicious. There was also a very beautiful jasper flower at the back of the mountain. During the day it was beautiful like a fairyland. Okay. Fifth Yinyang nodded repeatedly. She and her daughter had been possessed by misfortune recently. It couldn't be better to go to the temple. "Fourth sister, do you want to go? The jasper flower there is very beautiful. It's the same as the name of your courtyard. Also, the vegetarian food and pastries there are very delicious." Yijioga revealed a wolfish grin. "If big sister wants to go, then go," Yurui said like an adult. He even looked at Yijioga with a doting and helpless gaze as if she was the child. Yijioga's hair stood up from the little person's gaze. This child was becoming more and more crooked. He had to change it back immediately. When Mother Qing heard that eldest miss was going to take fourth miss out to play, she immediately prepared happily. She didn't forget to report to the master for them. Yi Yuxuan agreed to let Yijioga take Yurui out to play, but he didn't agree to let fifth aunt accompany him. Firstly, fifth concubine's health was not good. Secondly, because of Qin Fuan's matter, he now hated fifth concubine very much. If it weren't for the fact that Yurui was still young and couldn't leave her mother, he would have sent Fifth Yinyang to the manor. When Yi Jioge heard this, he was very angry. He wanted to argue with Yi Yuxuan, but was stopped by the fifth aunt. Eldest miss, it's hard for me to go out with this body of mine. You don't have to look for old master. The fifth concubine humbly begged. She was already very satisfied to stay and take care of her daughter. She did not dare to hope for anything else. The fifth concubine couldn't even stand up herself. Yi Jioge couldn't help her even if he wanted to, so he could only sigh. No matter which world it was, women were always weak. Even if Yi Yuxuan knew that Qin Fuan's matter wasn't the fifth concubine's fault, he would still blame her. He felt that if she knew her place, such a thing wouldn't have happened. He had so many concubines, but why didn't others have such things? He was already very merciful to spare the fifth concubine's life. Yi Rui didn't know that so many things had happened before she went out. At this time she was making a fuss about wearing men's clothes and going out. The fifth concubine had no choice but to ask Yi Jioge for advice. If she wants to wear it, then wear it. Yi Jioge knew that what happened in the basement had caused great harm to Yi Rui. She felt that being a woman was a kind of weakness, which was why she wanted to wear men's clothes. Forcefully refusing would only make her more rebellious. It was better to soothe her and let her feel better first. Therefore Yi Jioge also dressed as a man that day. She first covered the black scar on her face and then wore an ice blue robe embroidered with bamboo leaves. Her black hair was neatly combed into a bun on top of her head and put on an exquisite white jade crown. She hadn't spread her body and her chest was very flat, so there was no need to bind her chest. She just needed to use ointment to cover her ear holes. Yi Jioge was originally a man, so when he went out dressed like this, he looked like a handsome young man. There was even a hint of carefree and unrestrained aura between his brows and lips. Big sister? Yi Rui blinked and looked at the handsome young man in front of her. She felt that he was more handsome than any man she had ever seen. What big sister? You should call me big brother, fourth brother. Yi Jioge flicked the little girl's forehead. Although Yi Rui was wearing a sapphire blue men's clothes, her lips were red and her teeth were white. She had a weak aura and was more feminine. Big brother. Yi Rui covered her forehead and revealed a bashful smile. She was originally worried that big sister would be angry if she wore men's clothes. She didn't expect that big sister would actually wear men's clothes and look very carefree and handsome. She really envied her. Let's go. Yi Jioge picked up Yi Rui and sat in the carriage. Big sister, since you have a way to cover the black scar on your face, why don't you get rid of it? Yi Rui asked curiously. She felt that if big sister got rid of the black scar, she would definitely look very beautiful. A person's value can't be measured by their appearance, Yi Jioge replied lazily. She felt that Zishang fancied her even though she was so ugly. If she was a little more beautiful, wouldn't she be heaven-defying? Is that so? Yi Rui blinked and began to seriously consider the meaning of Yi Jioge's words. Alright, you're thinking about these things at such a young age. Aren't you afraid of going bald? Yi Jioge rubbed her little head and changed the topic. The Yi Manor wasn't far from Putua Temple. It took about an hour's drive to get there. A towering 1,000-year-old temple sat in the middle of the mountain. White smoke curled up from the top of the temple, giving it a very Buddhist aura. Putua Temple was a century-old temple. It was very popular and many high officials and nobles would come to pay their respects. After Yi Jioge brought Yi Rui to light the incense, he was about to bring her to the back mountain to admire the alcade flowers when he was stopped by a young novice monk. Benefactor, the alcade flowers in our back mountain aren't blooming today. We're just taking a walk outside. Please let us in. Yi Jioge remembered that the periphery of the alcade flowers in the back mountain was open to tourists. Only the inner mountain would be separated for the rich and powerful families to sightsee. This time she was dressed as a man and brought Yi Rui out, so she didn't use the Yi Manor's name. She just wanted to take a walk outside. After all, she could see anywhere. Amitba. The periphery of the back mountain isn't open today. Please forgive us, benefactor, the young novice monk said with his palms together. Yi Jioge looked at his expression and knew that the back mountain had been reserved by some rich and powerful family. He didn't know which hedonistic son of a rich family had come to reserve the mountain. The back mountain was so big. How many eyes did you have? Can you see it all? Chapter 62. Although Yi Jioge was dissatisfied, he wouldn't vent his anger on a young novice monk, so he nodded to show that he understood. Big brother, since we can't see the alcade flower, let's go back. Yi Rui said sensibly. Silly girl, do you think we can stop just because he said so? Yi Jioge raised his eyebrows. Then how do we look? Yi Rui blinked her eyes in confusion. Let's look like this. Yi Jioge carried Yi Rui and quietly avoided the reception monk and walked towards the back of the mountain. From afar he could see many guards patrolling at the foot of the mountain. However, they couldn't look after such a large mountain, so Yi Jioge smoothly slipped in with Yi Rui. "Big sister, this isn't good." Yi Rui was excited and worried. "What are you afraid of?" "We're just here to admire the flowers, not to kill people and burn them down," Yi Jioge said indifferently. Even if they did, she wasn't afraid. Yi Rui was a little worried at first, but she was soon mesmerized by the beautiful scenery in front of her. The branches of the alcade flower were milky white, and there were small white flowers blooming on it. Under the sunlight, they shone with an enchanting light. Yi Jioge gently shook the branches, and the petals on the tree danced like a dream. Yi Rui couldn't help but let out a cheerful cry. Before she finished laughing, a fierce shout came from the depths of the peach forest. "Who's there?" Yi Jioge turned her head and saw a man wearing a red guard uniform with a murderous look on his face walking towards them with a group of guards. Yi Rui's face instantly turned pale, and she hid behind Yi Jioge like a frightened rabbit, trembling. "Why are you so loud? Can't you see that my little brother is scared?" Yi Jioge glared at the guard, then patted Yi Rui's head and said, "Don't be afraid, big brother is here. Didn't you hear the reception monk say that no one is allowed in the back of the mountain today? Hurry up and leave." The guard saw that Yi Jioge was just a youth and he was bringing along a fart-sized child, so his tone softened a little, but his attitude was still very tough. "This back of the mountain doesn't belong to the Dongfang, so why can't we enter just because you say so?" Yi Jioge narrowed his eyes, and his face was filled with arrogance and disdain. Only the princes and grandsons could have such a bodyguard by their side. "How dare you?" The guard didn't expect this young man to be so arrogant, daring to call the current emperor by his surname. "It's okay. I'm just a little older than you." Yi Jioge smiled lazily. She wasn't even afraid of the crown prince, so how could she be afraid of the other princes? "If you dare to be arrogant again, believe it or not, I'll get someone to tie you up and take you out," the armed guard said fiercely. If possible, he hoped that Yi Jioge could leave on his own. He was known as a genius in the Thunder Country, and was the undisputed successor of the country. Unfortunately, the world was unpredictable, and Bai Linglong suddenly passed away when Dongfang Ke was 12. Dongfang Ke was inconsolable, and asked to go to his maternal grandfather's house to train. He was a godly commander and defeated the demon race's attacks several times. It was a pity that the heavens were jealous of his talent, and he was assassinated by the demon race in a battle. From then on, he was unable to walk and lost the qualifications to fight for the throne. Although the emperor was heartbroken, he still listened to the suggestion of his ministers, and made Dongfang jamming the crown prince and the empress. Although Yi Jioge didn't know who Dongfang Ke was, when she heard that he was harmed by the demon race, she felt an indescribable sense of guilt. She wanted to ask Zishang a few questions, but it was a pity that Zishang fell into a deep sleep after imparting the cultivation technique to Yiyu. He probably wouldn't wake up for at least half a month. "Young Lady Yi, this prince's subordinate was rude to you, I hope you don't mind." Dongfang Ke's voice was very pleasant to the ear, and it was gentle and cold, completely different from his gloomy eyes. "How did you recognize me?" Yi Jioge was a little surprised. Although he didn't intentionally disguise himself, even acquaintances wouldn't be able to recognize him at a glance. Dongfang Ke smiled, and his handsome face was as indifferent as a chrysanthemum, giving off a natural fragrance. However, he didn't answer Yi Jioge's question and only said indifferently, "This prince only came to take a look at the alcade flower on a whim, but I didn't think that I would disturb everyone's interest. I've truly sinned. Since that's the case, I won't disturb young Lady Yi any further. Farewell." After saying that, he turned his wheelchair and left. The guards lined up neatly behind him, covering his straight back. It's rumored that the Prince of Dongling became incomparably violent after his injury. I didn't expect him to be so amiable. Yi Jioge looked in the direction that Dongfang Ke left, but her mouth was actually talking to Yi Rui. Unexpectedly, Yi Rui didn't reply for a long time. Chapter 63. Yi Jioge turned to look at Yi Rui. She saw that the little girl's cheeks were pink and her eyes were sparkling as she looked in the direction that Dongfang Ke had left. She looked like she was under Su Juanqing's bewitching spell. However, Yi Jioge was just next to her and was sure that Dongfang Ke didn't even look at the little girl. She didn't expect this little girl to be obsessed with appearance. She became distracted as soon as she saw a handsome man. However, Dongfang Ke was a rare, peerlessly handsome man in both temperament and appearance. It was no wonder that Yi Rui was infatuated with him. Unfortunately, he was still a bit lacking compared to that monster, Zishang. If Yi Rui saw Zishang, she wouldn't know if she would be infatuated with his beauty or afraid of his demonic body. Big sister, are we still going to admire the flowers? Yi Rui quickly broke away from Dongfang Kei's infatuation and returned to her cynical self. No, let's go back. Yi Rui shook her head lazily. After seeing Dongfang Ling's beauty, she felt that the alcade flower was meaningless. And Yi Rui nodded with a taut face. On the way home, she maintained a bitter and hateful expression. She kept criticizing herself for not being firm and forgetting her dream of getting revenge on a man because of a handsome man. After Yi Jioga sent Yi Rui back to Alcade Garden, she returned to Purple Forest Park and changed into a plain lake green dress. She had just finished combing her hair when she saw Jinju excitedly walk in from outside the courtyard. She said joyfully, "Eldest miss, a eunuch came to the palace. Master wants you to quickly receive the Empress's decree." Empress's decree? Whose decree? Yi Jioga put down the white jade hairpin in her hand and turned to look at Jinju. This servant isn't sure either. It seems to be the Empress's decree. Jinju shook her head. She heard the news from the front courtyard and rushed over to inform Eldest Mississippi. "Eldest Miss, let's go take a look first," Mother Qing said softly. Then she quickly picked out a jade hairpin from the mahogany jewelry box and put it on her. She also picked out a pair of green jade earrings. Her originally plain outfit immediately became a bit more noble. After all, she was receiving the decree, so it was better to be more dignified. Yi Jioga instantly put on the appearance of a lady and leisurely walked to the hall with Mother Qing and Jinju. She saw a pale, short, fat, kind-looking father-in-law sitting on a chair. Yi Yuxuan was sitting in the seat of honor with the eunuch. When he saw Yi Jioga enter, he immediately said unhappily, "Who went to pass the message just now? Why did Eunuch Fu wait for so long?" When Pearl, who was standing behind Yi Jioga, heard Yi Yuxuan's words, she immediately shivered. Her knees went soft and she almost knelt down. Fortunately, before she knelt, she glanced at Mother Qing. When she saw Mother Qing's sharp eyes, which told her to hold on, she immediately straightened her knees. During this time, Mother Qing's most frequent words were that they, the servants of Purple Forest Park, were the face of the eldest miss. When going out, they must always remember their duties. They wouldn't bully others and they wouldn't let others bully them. No matter what happened, only the eldest miss was useful. The words of others were nothing. Yi Jioga's face sank slightly. In fact, when Pearl got the news, she immediately returned to Purple Forest Park to report. The whole process took less than 10 minutes, which was not slow. Yi Yuxuan said this just to slap her face to please this eunuch. When she saw Yi Yuxuan so stubbornly refuse the crown prince's visit to Yi Shanshan, she thought he finally became tough for once. She didn't expect that now he wanted to hug the Empress's thigh, but he still used her face to make a fuss. Sure enough, he was still as despicable, shameless, insidious and cunning as before. "Father, it's all my fault. I heard that the Empress sent someone to pass the imperial decree. I was afraid of neglecting it, so I washed up before coming out. Please forgive me, Father, and this eunuch." Yi Jioga bowed to the eunuch, and her tone was gentle and soft. She looked completely like a lady from a noble family. "Eldest Miss Yi is really too much. How could I dare to blame you?" Eunuch Fu smiled, but in his heart he was amazed that Yi Jioga was really different from before. In the past, if Yi Jioga encountered Yi Yuxuan's anger, she would definitely tremble in fear. How could she say such decent words? Moreover, because of the black scar on her face, she felt very inferior. When she spoke, she always lowered her head and looked like a yes man. Now her aura was completely different. Although the black scar on her face was still there, her pair of clear phoenix eyes shone brightly, making people completely ignore her appearance. There was only one thought in their heart: this woman can't be underestimated. Seeing Eunuch Fu say this, Yi Yuxuan couldn't not let Yi Jioga go. He changed the topic and said, "Eunuch Fu, I wonder what the Empress sent you here for? The Empress said that she hasn't seen eldest Miss Yi for a long time and misses you very much. So, she wants to invite eldest Miss Yi into the palace for a chat." Eunuch Fu said with a smile, as if the Empress called Yi Jioga into the palace to talk about family matters. Yi Jioga believed that Eunuch Fu's words were fishy. Previously, she slapped the Crown Prince's face twice and even took back the Purple Thunder Wood. The Crown Prince hated her to the bone and must have said a lot of bad things about her in front of the Empress. The Empress called her into the palace to settle scores with her. If she fell for it, she would be a fool. Yi Jioga wanted to refuse, but Yi Yuxuan already said to Eunuch Fu impatiently, "It's her honor that the Empress summoned Jioga. I thank the Empress on her behalf." Eunuch Fu, please go back and report to the Empress. Jyoga will definitely go and pay her respects. Okay, then I'll come to take eldest Miss Yi into the palace in 7 days. Eunuch Fu stood up and was about to leave. Yi Yuxuan had the housekeeper send him out. As an alchemy master, he was already giving the Empress face by personally receiving Eunuch Fu. It would be lowering his status if he personally sent the guest off. Yi Jyoga didn't get a word in. After Eunuch Fu left, she said to Yi Yuxuan, "Father, do you really believe that the Empress called me into the palace to reminisce with me? No matter why the Empress called you into the palace, you have to go." Yi Yuxuan straightened his face and said unhappily, "You've been targeting the crown prince all this time. It's already a great fortune that the Empress doesn't care about you. This time you have to go with the Empress and let her calm down. *CKU. Why don't you go into the palace and let the Empress calm down?" Yi Jyoga's face darkened. He didn't hide his anger at all. "Alright, the Empress has always been kind. She won't do anything to you. Just kowtow to her a few more times and it'll be fine." Yi Yuxuan comforted him. Last time, he humiliated the crown prince because he was angry that the elixirs were stolen. However, he didn't want to completely cut ties with the royal family. After all, the Dongfang family was the royal family of Thunder Country. There was no benefit in falling out with them. Yi Jyoga wanted to roll her eyes. She knew that she couldn't count on Yi Yuxuan, this scumbag of a father, to help her. Fine, let her enter the palace, right? Then she would enter the palace for him to see. But at that time, whether the Empress would calm down or not wouldn't be up to him. Chapter 64. When Yi Jyoga returned to Purple Forest Park, Mother Qing worriedly said to her, "Eldest Miss, the Empress clearly wants to deal with you this time. What should we do? Different situations call for different actions. What is there to be afraid of?" Yi Jyoga said disapprovingly. Her grandfather Yun Tianwei was the #1 alchemist in Thunder Country. The other cities only knew of Thunder Country after hearing his name. As her grandfather's only bloodline, even the emperor did not dare to touch her, let alone the Empress. If she was really provoked, she would jump out and say that the Dongfang family harmed the loyal people, and those alchemists who worshipped grandfather would curse them to death. No matter what, this is a Hongmen banquet. Young miss, it's better to prepare early. Mother Qing still had a worried expression. If Madame did not die, there would be many noble ladies who wanted to bring eldest miss into the palace to protect her. But after Madame died, eldest miss was like mud that could not be pasted to the wall, and all the aristocratic families who had a relationship with the Yun family took the initiative to cut off contact. Now it would be difficult to pick up the relationship again. And you're right. Yi Jyoga felt that she should indeed make some preparations. Other than that, it was necessary to have a way to protect her life, lest the Empress become angry and create an accident, to kill her in the palace. This old servant will go write an invitation to the Jin family, Zhao family, and Li family, and see who is willing to bring you into the palace. Mother Qing said in high spirits. No matter what, she had to give it a try. Maybe there really was a person with a conscience who remembered the kindness of the Yun family. It's useless to find them, it's a waste of effort. Yi Jyoga did not believe in any conscience, she only believed in herself. If she had the time, she might as well make more pills to protect herself. Tranquil pill, detoxification pill, fantasy breaking pill, Peiyuan pill, bone softening pill, spirit dispersing pill. She had to make a stack of them as a backup. After Yi Jyoga took the money to buy the materials needed for alchemy, she then asked Yi Yu out. After not seeing her for a few days, Yi Yu's complexion was much better, her beautiful face regained some color, and the red mole between her eyebrows reflected a bright and beautiful aura. It seems that your cultivation method is not bad. Yi Jyoga nodded his head in satisfaction. Previously, Night Rain's half-dead appearance made people feel uncomfortable just by looking at it. It's all thanks to young miss, Yi Yu said sincerely. During this period of time, he had been cultivating in seclusion. The more he cultivated, the more he realized how powerful this cultivation technique was. His meridians and lungs, which had been weakened by the erosion of the yin qi, not only recovered quickly under the circulation of the cultivation technique, but they also became stronger. What surprised him the most was the yin qi that the evil cultivator had left in his body. After refining it, it was actually a great help to his invisibility technique. Originally, his invisibility was only at the first tier, which allowed him to turn invisible but not attack. The duration of his invisibility was also very limited. Now that he had reached the second tier, he could finally become a shadow assassin. Apart from the extended invisibility duration, he also gained a very practical skill. This cultivation method is the reward for selling your body to me, there is no need to thank me. Yi Jioga waved his hand and said, I called you out this time because I have something for you to do. What instructions does the eldest miss have for me? Yi Yu asked in a serious manner. The Empress wants me to enter the palace in 7 days. I am afraid that she will deal with me, so I need you to do something for me. Yi Jioga lowered his voice and explained the matter. Don't worry, eldest miss, this subordinate will definitely complete the task. Yi Yu solemnly nodded. This was the first time that Yi Jioga asked him to do something. He must do it beautifully. That's good. I will be cultivating in seclusion for the next few days. Do you have any pills that you want to eat? Yi Jioga asked as if he was asking Yi Yu what dishes he wanted to eat. No need. Yi Yu hurriedly shook his head. Yi Jioga was already very good to him, he could not take it too far. Why are you being so polite with me? The stronger you are, the more assured I can use you. Yi Jioga expressed that Yi Yu was thinking too much. She was not helping him, but helping herself. Yi Yu hesitated for a moment, then said, I need some pills that can nourish the meridians. Although the cultivation technique that Yi Jioga gave him could repair the meridians, the speed was still a bit slow. He wanted to recover faster so that he could find traces of his sister. Okay, come to the Purple Forest Park in 5 days and ask me for pills. Yi Jioga nodded. She also wanted to see how Yi Yu's recovery was. After cultivating for so long, he should be stronger than before. In the next few days, Yi Jioga stayed in the alchemy room and immersed herself in refining pills, refining many second-grade spirit pills. Although she had countless pill recipes in her head, her cultivation was just there. It was impossible for her to refine pills of a higher grade. This was because high-grade spirit pills not only required the support of spiritual power, but also the control of soul power. Although she had lived 2 lives and her soul power was abnormal, it was still impossible for her to refine pills that were 2 levels higher. Yi Jioga refined another batch of Peiyuan pills, then walked out of the alchemy room. Eldest miss, you previously said that it was not good for 4th miss to be obsessed with refining pills. Why did you also become obsessed? Mother Qing brought a cup of hot tea to Yi Jioga and looked at the bruises under her eyes with heartache. Yi Jioga went into seclusion in the alchemy room, so she did not dare to disturb her. She could only send food through the small window on time. Unfortunately, Yi Jioga only ate 2 meals a day. She was really worried. Okay, I won't be like this in the future. Yi Jioga took the hot tea and drank a cup, then asked Mother Qing, what has father been busy with recently? Did anything happen outside? This old servant also does not know what he has been busy with recently, leaving early and returning late, but Jinju heard some rumors outside. When Mother Qing said this, she could not help but lower her voice. I heard that outside, Her Majesty summoned you to the palace to avenge the crown prince. Really? Yi Jioga raised her eyebrows. She looked for Yi Yu previously to let him spread rumors among the people, using public opinion to suppress Her Majesty and the crown prince. She did not expect Yi Yu to act so quickly. This rumor had already spread to the backyard of the Yi mansion. It is absolutely true. This old servant also inquired about it in private. I heard that in addition to the rumors in the streets, many backyards of officials are also secretly spreading this matter. Mother Qing used to go out with Yin Jiaojiao to socialize, so she still had some connections, so it was not a problem to inquire about small matters. Even the backyards of officials were spreading it. This should not be Yi Yu's doing. Yi Jioga thought about it but could only think of Wan Ziang and Bai Songling. These 2 people were really loyal. It was not in vain to go through trials and tribulations together. Eldest miss, this old servant is relieved. If Her Majesty really dares to harm you, then the news that the crown prince wants to take revenge will be confirmed. The crown prince broke his promise, broke the engagement, and still has the face to take revenge. Bah. Mother Qing wanted to spit on the ground to show her disdain for the crown prince. When Madame was still alive, the crown prince was deeply in love with eldest miss, sending gifts every day. Even if eldest miss meridians were broken, he still showed that he did not care. As a result, when Madame died, he immediately cooled down and became intimate with Yi Shanshan, which was simply disgusting. Chapter 65. Mother Qing later give the servants a sealing order. No matter what the people outside say, our courtyard is not allowed to spread these words. Yi Jioga was sure that when Yi Yuxuan heard this news, he would definitely come to find trouble with her. She was not afraid, but she was afraid that the servants in the courtyard would be killed by Yi Yuxuan like chickens. Eldest miss, rest assured, this old servant has already ordered. Mother Qing knew that no matter who spread this rumor, everyone would definitely blame it on eldest miss. At this critical moment, keeping silent was the wisest thing to do. Yi Jioga felt relieved to have an old fox like Mother Qing by her side. Eldest miss, Jinju made some almond milk, do you want to eat some? Mother Qing felt that Yi Jioga was already so thin that she had to eat some. Then eat some. Although Yi Jioga was not hungry, she did not want to ignore Mother Qing's good intentions. Okay. Mother Qing was about to go out to find Jinju, but heard the frightened voice of the servants in the courtyard. This servant pays respect to the master. Then Yi Yuxuan angrily walked into the room. Daughter pays respect to father. Yi Jioga respectfully bowed to Yi Yuxuan and then said, Father, why do you have time to see me today? You still have the face to ask? Yi Yuxuan looked at Yi Jioga and said, Don't think that I know what good things you have done outside. Father, where did this come from? Yi Jioga was puzzled and said with grievance, This daughter has been in the courtyard concocting pills and did not go out. What good things can I do? Do you dare to say that you did not let people spread rumors that the Empress invited you to the palace to avenge the crown prince? Other than this dead girl, there could not be anyone else. What? The Empress invited me to the palace to avenge the crown prince. Yi Jioga covered her mouth in surprise and said like a frightened rabbit, Father, what should I do? How about saying that I am sick and cannot enter the palace? Pretend you are still pretending. Seeing Yi Jioga's pretentious appearance, Yi Yuxuan was so angry that his liver hurt. If this damned lass was really so cowardly, she wouldn't have slapped the crown prince 3 times on the street. Father, your daughter isn't pretending. Your daughter is truly afraid. If other people's daughters were to have their marriage annulled, they would probably hate the person who annulled the marriage. But our family is rushing to let others trample on our face. How can your daughter not be afraid? Yi Jioga revealed a mocking smile. What nonsense are you talking about? Could it be that being born in the Yi family has wronged you? Yi Yuxuan originally wanted to denounce him, but he was angered by Yi Jioga. That's right. If grandfather was still here, my daughter would have been born in the Yun family. Yi Yuxuan was just a son-in-law who married into the family. She should have been surnamed Yun. Yi Jioga's words stabbed right into Yi Yuxuan's heart. Yi Yuxuan was so angry that his face turned red. His eyes widened as he raised his hand to slap Yi Jioga. Master, please calm down. Mother Qing hurriedly knelt down and begged, Eldest Miss is still young, and her words are not pleasant to hear. Please spare her this time for the sake of the deceased madam. When Yi Yuxuan heard about the deceased madam, he stopped. However, his hand was still raised in the air, ready to fall at any time. This unfilial daughter's words were too unpleasant to hear. If she didn't tactfully beg for mercy, he would have to teach her a lesson. Eldest Miss, just apologize to Master. Mother Qing turned around and begged Yi Jioga. During this period of time, Yi Yuxuan had treated Yi Jioga quite well. Mother Qing felt that there was still a chance for this father and daughter pair to reconcile. Unexpectedly, not only did Yi Jioga not admit her wrongs, she even raised her head and said to Yi Yuxuan, Beat me. If you have the ability, then beat me to death. Then I won't have to enter the palace to be trampled on. Yi Yuxuan was so angry that his body trembled. He really wanted to kill this unfilial daughter with a single palm. However, when he thought about how she was going to enter the palace in 2 days, he still didn't dare to make a move. Forget it, there will be plenty of opportunities to take care of this damn girl in the future. Yi Yuxuan fiercely glared at Yi Jioga, then turned around and walked towards the entrance of the courtyard. His face was so dark that it scared a group of servants. Mother Qing softly fell to the ground. She looked at Yi Jioga and cried, Eldest Miss, why are you doing this? No matter what, Master is still your father. If you go against him like this, what good will it be in the future? Mother Qing, take those words back. I don't have this kind of father who can't distinguish right from wrong and wants me to die. Yi Jioga's face was filled with frost. Her voice was as cold as the ice on a 1,000-year-old snow mountain. She would never forget how he nodded without hesitation when Su Yufeng went to find him to discuss how to deal with her. He could even secretly exchange her mother's life-saving pill. This kind of despicable, shameless, and selfish scumbag was not worthy of being her father. Eldest Miss. Mother Qing's old face wrinkled into a ball. Tears flowed down uncontrollably. She felt that her eldest Miss's life was too bitter. Other families' daughters were doted on like treasures by their parents. But eldest Miss, having a father was more difficult than not having a father. Alright, don't cry. Yi Jioga saw Mother Qing crying miserably and hurriedly changed the topic. Didn't you say that you would give me almond milk to drink? Why aren't you going? I'm hungry. This old servant will go now. Mother Qing immediately wiped away her tears and stood up. The master did not dote on the eldest Miss. As servants, they had to put her in their hearts. Yi Jioga watched Mother Qing walk out of the house. She did not know if she was seeing things, but she noticed that Mother Qing's shadow suddenly distorted for a moment. However, it quickly returned to normal. Following that, the peony incense burner in the corner of the house let out a slight sound. It was as if someone had lightly knocked on it. Yi Jiuge was startled. She immediately opened her spiritual eye and distanced herself from the corner of the house. Within the range of her spiritual eye, she saw a slender figure walking out from the corner of the house. Her figure slowly appeared. Her skin was whiter than snow. Between her eyebrows was a red mole. If it wasn't Yiyu, who could it be? Eldest Miss. Yiyu smiled brightly at Yi Jiuge, and there was a hint of pride in his gentle and pleasant voice. Previously, his invisibility technique was easily seen through by Yi Jiuge. His heart was unconvinced. He always wanted to give her a shock. This time he finally did it. Did Mother Qing's shadow have anything to do with you? Yi Jiuge thought about the sudden distortion of Mother Qing's shadow. And after I refined that yin qi, I have evolved into a shadow assassin. I am able to move stealthily in the shadows. Yiyu did not tell Yi Jiuge that he had other skills. He was preparing to give her a surprise in the future. You brat, you are really powerful. Yi Jiuge was truly happy. This way he would have an assassin as a helper. No, it is the cultivation technique that you gave me that is powerful. Yiyu said modestly. He originally thought that the Yi clan's cultivation technique was the assassin's grimoire. But after seeing the cultivation technique that Yi Jiuge gave him, he realized that his family's cultivation technique was only at the entry level. Chapter 66. Yi Jiuge did not expect Zishang's technique to be so powerful. She thought that Zishang was just casually using a technique to tease her. It seemed like she had misunderstood him. Speaking of which, he had been asleep for almost 10 days. Why wasn't he awake yet? Was imparting techniques really that tiring? Missy, what's wrong? Yiyu saw that Yi Jiuge was in deep thought and thought that he had done something wrong. Nothing. Yi Jiuge regained her senses and said, "Oh right, this bottle of meridian nurturing pills is for you." Yiyu had done a good job in this mission, so it would be his reward. Although this meridian nurturing pill was only a grade 2 pill, it was more effective than those grade 3 pills on the market. Thank you, Missy. Yiyu took the meridian nourishing pill, hesitated for a moment, and then said in embarrassment, "Actually, I just found some hooligans to spread some rumors. It's not because of me that it has such a great effect. It seems like someone is secretly adding fuel to the fire. Do you want me to investigate?" Yiyu had not fully recovered from his injuries, so he did not dare to act rashly. He was afraid that Yi Jiuge had another plan. No need, I already know who it is. If Yi Jiuge guessed correctly, it should be the Ministry of Justice's Wan Ziang and Bai Songling who were helping her. Yiyu was now one of her people, so there was no harm in letting him know. Missy has connections with the Ministry of Justice? Yiyu felt a little awkward. He was an assassin, so he did not like to deal with the officials. And the two of them are not bad. I will introduce them to you if there is a chance. Yiyu didn't want to know anyone from the Ministry of Penalty, so he answered unenthusiastically. Then he asked carefully, "First, miss, although there are rumors going around, the Empress may not take them to heart. Do you want me to accompany you to the palace?" It is not that easy to enter the palace. You should just cultivate and raise your strength. Yi Jiuge patted Yiyu's sturdy shoulder. There were many experts in the royal family, so a small assassin like Yiyu would probably sink if he were to enter. Yiyu felt his skin that was patted by Yi Jiuge heat up. It was so hot that he could not help but blush. He was worried that Yi Jiuge would notice something was wrong, so he turned and hid in the shadows. In the future. Yi Jiuge wanted to encourage Yiyu, but she did not expect him to pat her. She opened her spiritual eye and observed carefully, only to realize that Yiyu had already disappeared. *CK, this brat really has a personality. What does he mean by leaving just like that? Yi Jiuge didn't think that it was his perverted hands that scared them away. After muttering a few words, he took a few bottles of his specially refined spirit recovery pills and prepared to leave. Mother Qing just happened to come in with the almond milk. Seeing that Yi Jiuge was about to leave, she curiously asked, "Where is eldest miss going?" "I'm going to visit Lord Wan and Lord Bai. There were a lot of things going on at home before, so I didn't have the chance to visit. After all, they saved fourth sister, so we have to do something." Yi Jiuge picked up the milk and drank it in one gulp. "Eldest miss is right. Wan Darren and Bai Darren saved fourth miss, so they should come to thank you. Originally, this old servant had prepared the gift for you, but then the imperial decree suddenly came from the palace, so this old servant forgot." Mother Qing quickly took out the gift she had prepared. A box of 4 happiness pastries, a pot of peach blossom wine, and a pot of Longjing tea leaves before the rain. Although it wasn't anything valuable, it was evident that the owner had put in a lot of effort into it. Coupled with the spirit recovery pills that Yi Jioga had refined, it was considered presentable. Given that Yi Rui's return was done in secret, Yi Jioga didn't want to come and thank them with great fanfare, so she took a carriage to their mansion in a low-key manner. Bai Songling was very happy to see Yi Jioga arrive. She said with a smile, "You came, you didn't need to bring gifts. It's not anything valuable." Yi Jioga entered the house and didn't find Wan Ziang, so she asked, "Where's Brother Wan?" "I heard that there were a few murders in Heiyang County." He suspected that it was related to the Su family, so he rushed over to investigate a few days ago. Bai Songling invited Yi Jioga to sit down and poured her a cup of hot tea. "I heard that Su Junqing has been very low-key recently. Even when Su Yufeng was sent to the ancestral temple, he didn't send anyone to plead for her." Yi Jioga guessed that Su Junqing was afraid of being beaten, so he simply became a coward. This man was ruthless and flexible. He was indeed not easy to deal with. Well, Master Su is about to come out of seclusion. He probably doesn't want anything to go wrong at this time. "By the way, why did the Empress summon you to the palace?" Bai Songling asked. He was originally going to go to Heiyang with Wan Ziang, but he stayed after hearing about this. "What else could it be? She just wants to show me her strength and vent her anger," Yi Jioga said indifferently. "The Empress is a very scheming woman. She does everything step by step. Back then the imperial noble consort was in the limelight, but she could endure for so long. You must not underestimate her." Bai Songling saw Yi Jioga's indifferent look and couldn't help but advise. "From what you said, is there an inside story about the imperial noble consort's death?" Yi Jioga's eyes lit up and she asked in a low voice. She loved to listen to gossip. Wait, she remembered that the imperial noble consort's surname was Bai. Was it related to Bai Songling? No, it shouldn't be. The Bai family was a big family, and it was impossible for them to let their children come to the Ministry of Penalty to be a coroner. No matter how good they were, it would be a disgrace to the family. What inside story can there be? Don't make wild guesses lest you violate the taboo. Bai Songling lowered his eyes and said lightly. Although he had tried his best to hide the expression on his face, Yi Jioga could still feel the waves in his heart. It seemed that he was a person with a story like Wan Ziang. But he obviously didn't want to tell her. Yi Jioga could understand. After all, they hadn't known each other for a long time, and their friendship hadn't reached that point. Besides, she didn't dare to tell them about Yi Yu. Yi Jioga smiled and didn't say more. Instead, he changed the topic. "I will enter the palace in 2 days. Brother Bai, do you have any good suggestions?" "It's not wrong to talk less and see more when you enter the palace. That day is also the day when Prince Dongling enters the palace to meet the Emperor. If the Empress really wants to harm you, you can find someone to ask Prince Dongling for help. He has always admired Master Yun's character and will definitely help you." Bai Songling wrote a name on the rice paper and handed it to Yi Jioga, saying, "No matter what happens, you can go to Jinxiu Palace to find her." Yi Jioga looked down at the paper Bai Songling handed her. The name of a palace maid was written on it, Hongxiu. She once again confirmed the guess in her heart. This Bai Songling must be related to the Bai family, otherwise he wouldn't have asked her to go to Prince Dongling for help. Chapter 67. Jioga, you don't have to worry too much. This is just a complete plan. It might not be used. Bai Songling looked at Yi Jioga calmly. "Then I'll thank you in advance, Brother Bai." Yi Jioga put the note away with a smile. In any case, the fact that Bai Songling was willing to help her was a blessing. She was not a goddess who could make people sacrifice selflessly. Taking what they needed was the correct way to form an alliance. "You don't have to be so polite. If you need anything in the future, just come to me." Bai Songling admired Yi Jioga from the bottom of her heart. Such a courageous, capable and charismatic woman was hard to find in the entire Thunder Country. "Alright, it's getting late. I'll take my leave first," Yi Jioga said as he stood up. "Let me walk you out." Bai Songling also stood up. "No, the carriage is just outside. I can go out by myself." Yi Jioga asked Bai Songling to stay and left the house. Not long after Yi Jioga left, a person suddenly appeared from behind the screen in the hall. It was Wan Ziang, who was supposed to be handling a case in Heiyang. He was travel-worn, his eyes were bruised and his face was unconcealable weariness. It was obvious that he had rushed back overnight. "When did you come back?" Bai Songling asked in surprise. "When you told Jiu to be careful of the Empress." Wan Ziang's expression wasn't very good. Other than exhaustion, there was a trace of imperceptible coldness. Are you blaming me for dragging her into this? Bai Songling and Wan Ziang had known each other for a long time, so she naturally knew what he was thinking at a glance. This is a battle between us and the Su family and the Dongfang family. Don't drag outsiders into this. Wan Ziang was indeed angry at Bai Songling's decision. Even if I don't pull her down, she's already in the water. Do you think the Crown Prince and the Empress will let her go, or do you think Yi Yuxuan will protect her? Bai Songling raised her eyebrows. He had pulled Yi Jioga into his camp not to make use of her, but to protect her. Wan Ziang was speechless. He knew that Bai Songling was right. However, the current situation in the Thunder Nation was extremely complicated. The Su family and the royal Dongfang family were only the forces on the surface. The forces in the dark were the truly terrifying ones. He had only touched a little bit, but he was already prepared to die a horrible death. That was why he didn't want Yi Jioga to get involved. Such a carefree and unrestrained girl should not have to suffer like this. Well, I'm just telling her to be careful of the Empress. I'm not asking her to do anything dangerous. You don't have to be nervous. Bai Songling smiled. In order to ease the tense atmosphere, he casually opened Yi Jioga's gift and said with a smile, "Let's see what Jioga brought us." A box of 4 happiness pastries, a pot of peach blossom wine, and a pot of Longjing tea leaves before the rain. Why are they all things that women like to eat? What pill is this? Bai Songling took out 2 small jade bottles from the gift box. The words, Grade 2 Spirit Recovery Pill, were written on the bottles. The words were written in bold strokes. It was Yi Jioga's notebook. There are only 3 pills in a bottle. This girl is too stingy. Bai Songling opened the jade pendant and glanced at it. Then she deliberately spoke in a disdainful tone. Give it to me. Wan Ziang had rushed back through the night and had consumed a lot of his spiritual power. It was just the right time for him to try a spirit recovery pill. Here. Bai Songling generously handed the 2 bottles of pills to Wan Ziang. As far as he knew, Yi Jioga was only a grade 2 alchemist. The pills that he refined shouldn't be that good. Unexpectedly, after Wan Ziang ate 1 pill, his expression changed slightly. Then he silently put away the 2 jade bottles. How is it? Doesn't it feel like eating jelly beans? Bai Songling asked with a smile. Spirit recovery pills were pills that were used to replenish spiritual power. They were not easy to refine. Even for a grade 3 alchemist, it was already very good to refine 3 out of 10 bottles. Middle-grade alchemists could only replenish normal spiritual power. Low-grade alchemists could only replenish 20% of their spiritual power. Wan Ziang didn't answer Bai Songling's question. He threw down the word tired, and hurriedly went back to his room to cultivate. How could he tell Bai Songling, a fool, that Yi Jioga's bottle of spirit recovery pills not only replenished his depleted spiritual power, but also increased it by a lot? If he didn't immediately meditate and absorb it, it would be a waste. He had never seen such a powerful spirit recovery pill. It was not inferior to a grade 3 pill. If he used it during a battle, it would be equivalent to having an extra life. It was a pity to use it to replenish spiritual power. Bai Songling looked inexplicably at Wan Ziang, who left in a hurry. Although he felt a little strange, he didn't associate it with Yi Jioga's pills. He thought it was because of something else. Yi Jioga didn't know that the pills he refined had caused a small disturbance with Wan Ziang and Bai Songling. After she returned to Purple Forest Park, she put the note that Bai Songling gave her on the table. Mother Qing came in to ask Yi Jioga about visiting Wan Darren and Bai Darren. When she saw the note, she was a little surprised and asked, "Eldest Miss, is this Hong Xiu Aunt Hong Xiu from the palace?" "Mother Qing, do you know this Aunt Hong Xiu?" Yi Jioga didn't expect Mother Qing to have such a wide network that she even knew people in the palace. "I don't really know her. I just met her a few times in Kunyuan Palace." Mother Qing couldn't help but sink into her memories. Thinking back to when old Master Yun Tianwei was still in Shangjing, Madame, who had already found a son-in-law, was the most popular person in Shangjing. Not only did the aristocratic ladies want to be on good terms with her, but even the concubines in the palace were no exception. At that time, the imperial noble consort often invited Madame into the palace, and Mother Qing often accompanied her. She remembered the imperial noble consort's chief palace made Hong Xiu the most. Because Hong Xiu was already a martial practitioner at a young age, Mother Qing, who was still in the body refining stage, admired her very much, so she had an impression of her. Speaking of which, the imperial noble consort also wanted to have a child marriage with Madame. Unfortunately, she was never pregnant, so the Empress got ahead of her. Mother Qing said while wringing her hands. She looked as if she had been engaged to the imperial noble consort, eldest miss would not have been abandoned by the crown prince. A cripple and an ugly woman, that's a good match. Yi Jioge laughed, but in her heart she didn't care. How could a person like Dongfang Ke like her, a useless and ugly woman? She was afraid that if she fell out with him, she wouldn't be much better than the crown prince. Eldest miss, how can you belittle yourself? Mother Qing didn't like eldest miss's self-deprecating appearance. In her heart, eldest miss would always be the best. No man in the world could be worthy of her, not even a prince. Yi Jioge didn't comment on Mother Qing's blind confidence. Instead, she began to think about whether or not she should meet this Aunt Hong Xiu after entering the palace. Yi Jioge's current enemies, other than Yi Yuxuan and the others, were the Su family and the Dongfang family. This was because these people were inextricably linked to her grandfather's disappearance. It would be difficult for her to bring them down by herself, so she needed to find help. Dongfang Ke was a good candidate. Chapter 68. However, even though Dongfang Ke was not bad, Yi Jioge was still somewhat worried. There had always been rumors in the capital that Dongfang Ke had lost the will to fight for the throne because of his leg injury. Now it looked like he was hiding his strength and biding his time, pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger. This kind of scheming, ruthless character who was good at patience was not easy to figure out. She didn't want to chase away the wolf in front, only to have a big tiger behind her. Forget it, I'll just enter the palace and take a look at the situation. After Yi Jioge burned by Songling's note, he locked himself in the alchemy room and continued to struggle. On the day of entering the palace, Mother Qing woke Yi Jioge up early. After washing up, she carefully wiped her face and hands with balm. Then she carefully combed her hair into a snake-shaped bun and inserted a red plum blossom with gold thread into the bun. It was exquisite yet dignified. She was dressed in a bamboo-colored pleated dress with scattered flowers. It was delicate and fresh but not too plain. Originally, Mother Qing wanted to apply makeup on Yi Jioge, but she was rejected. This black scar is my mark. If you cover it up, maybe they won't let me enter the palace, Yi Jioge said half-jokingly. Anyway, even if she dressed up as a fairy, the Empress would not take a second look, so why waste her effort? All right. In Mother Qing's heart, even if eldest miss had a scar on her face, she would still be beautiful and moving. The carriage from the palace was already waiting outside, but it wasn't Eunuch Fu who came to pick them up. Instead, it was an old nanny with a solemn expression, looking as if her parents had died. She stood upright on the carriage, looking like a difficult person to deal with. Mother Qing went up to the old woman with a smiling face and stuffed a purse into her purse, but she was coldly pushed back by the old woman. She looked like she was not affected by anything. Yi Jioge didn't have a good attitude towards this kind of person who didn't want face. He pulled Mama Qing to the carriage in the palace and sat down. The carriage of the Yi residents followed behind in case of emergency. The palace might not necessarily send him off when they came to pick him up, so it would be safer to prepare a carriage to follow them. Moreover, Mother Qing was not allowed to enter the palace. When the time came, she would have to wait outside the palace for a place to stay. The streets were very quiet in the early morning. The Yi mansion was more than an hour away from the imperial palace. When Yi Jioge went out, the sky was just beginning to brighten. When he arrived at the palace gate, the sun had already peeked out. The pale golden sunlight shone on the tall and majestic palace gates, giving off an indescribable sense of solemnity. The old nanny handed over her waist token, and after the guard checked, she was allowed to pass. Although the old woman was old, she walked as if she was flying. It was obvious that she was a cultivator. Yi Jioge had no choice but to quicken his pace and follow behind her. After passing through the long Vermilion Palace path and bypassing the Imperial Garden, he finally arrived in front of the Fengyi Palace. He saw a row of palace maids standing at the entrance of the magnificent Fengyi Palace. One of the beautiful palace maids wearing a red palace maid dress walked towards the old nanny and said in a low voice, "Nanny Su, the Empress is inside discussing matters with the Crown Prince. She wants you to take Miss Yi to the side hall to wait and summon her when the Empress is free." The old grandma frowned and nodded. This old servant understands. Then he turned to Yi Jioge and said, "Miss Yi, please." Yi Jioge followed behind wet nurse Su with a calm expression. They bypassed the Fengyi Palace and walked towards the side hall at the back. Finally, they arrived at the splendid palace. "Eldest Miss Yi, please wait inside patiently. The Empress will send someone to summon you when she's free." The old mammy pretended to bow and left. Yi Jioge looked at the three large words "Splendid Palace" above the dilapidated palace and couldn't help but frown. Aunt Hongxiu was said to be on duty in this splendid palace. What did the Empress mean by having Wet Nurse Su bring her here? It couldn't be that Wet Nurse Su was also one of Prince Dongling's people. She was curious and walked into the palace hall. Although the outside of the palace hall was covered in dust, the inside was very clean. It could be seen that it was frequently cleaned. The light golden duobao gauge indicated that the palace hall used to have a glorious past. Yi Jioge was about to walk towards the inner palace hall. Suddenly there was a stifled gasp from inside. Who's inside? Yi Jioge raised her voice and shouted, but no one responded. She immediately felt that something was wrong. Just as she was about to turn and leave, she heard a creaking sound behind her. The palace doors were instantly tightly shut. Yi Jioge hurried to the palace doors and fiercely kicked them, but found that they didn't budge at all. It was obvious that the doors were stuck from the outside. Damn it, he wouldn't set fire to the palace like last time, right? Her thunderfire needle hadn't recovered yet, and Zidecease was still in a deep sleep. If he did it again she would definitely die. Yi Jioge quickly walked towards the inner palace hall. Since there was still someone here, she might be able to get some information from him. The doors of the inner palace were also tightly shut. Yi Jioge forcefully pushed the doors open, only to see a black shadow pounce on her like lightning and fiercely push her to the ground. Yi Jioge raised her foot to kick, but was firmly pressed down by the person who came, and her neck instantly fell into the other party's iron pincer-like palm. Yi Jioge was about to use her spiritual power to make a move, but when she took a closer look at the man lying on top of her, she couldn't help but stop. The man had a peerlessly handsome face, and his eyebrows were extremely exquisite and beautiful. His skin, which was like a 1,000-year-old snow mountain, was flushed and his deep eyes were filled with fire. It was actually Prince Dongling. That fiery body and fiery aura all showed that this noble Prince Dongling had been poisoned by an aphrodisiac, and was currently madly searching for a woman to use as an antidote. Prince Dongling, please open your eyes and clearly see who you're pouncing on, Yi Jioge said with difficulty. Also, please move the Rui Jingu Bang a little. Stabbing her leg was very uncomfortable. Dongfang Kei's bloodshot eyes stared closely at Yi Jioge, a trace of confusion appearing in his eyes. Just when Yi Jioge thought that Dongfang Kei had already recognized her and was about to shake hands and make peace, she saw him suddenly lower his head and fiercely bite down on her lips. Yi Jioge was greatly shocked and she suddenly turned her head. Dongfang Kei's soft and fiery lips were branded on her face, and they even slid down her cheeks. Holy shit! Just how potent was this aphrodisiac? It could actually make Prince Dongling, who was known as Shangjing's most aloof man, lose control to this extent, and even an ugly woman like her was enjoying it. Although the feeling of a beautiful man throwing himself into her arms was very good, Yi Jioge did not have the fortune to enjoy it. Even if she used her toes to think, she knew that Prince Dongling being here was definitely a trap set up by the Empress. Perhaps the adultery-catching team was already on the way, and they were just waiting to come in and enjoy the live erotic palace. Yi Jioge did not want to perform for others to see, but Dongfang Kei's hands were pressing her down tightly, and his long legs were stuck on either side of her thighs, causing her entire body to hurt. Men who were in the throes of passion did not have any rationality to speak of. Yi Jioge was afraid that her actions would provoke Dongfang Kei, so she could only patiently allow him to touch and bite her body, as if she was at his mercy. Just as Dongfang Kei released Yi Jioge's hands and was about to tear off her clothes and force himself on her, the thunderfire needle in Yi Jioge's hand suddenly exploded, and with lightning speed, it fiercely stabbed towards the back of his ear. Chapter 69. Yi Jioge's thunderfire needle carried purple spiritual energy as it viciously stabbed into the Fengqi point behind Dongfang Kei's ear. The Fengqi point was a major point in the human body and could clear the mind. Of course, it was also very painful. Dongfang Kei's face paled from the pain, but he instantly recovered a trace of clarity. Yi Jioge took the opportunity to push him away, then took out several clear heart pills from her pocket and stuffed them into his mouth. Although it was not an aphrodisiac, it was enough to keep him calm. Why are you here? Dongfang Kei recovered his divine sense and was shocked to see Yi Jioge. He lowered his head and saw that his hand was still on her messy clothes. He quickly put it away. There's no time to explain. We should hurry and leave this place. It'll be too late if we're late. Yi Jioge hastily adjusted her clothes, stood up, and quickly walked towards the window of the inner palace. Dongfang Kei also subconsciously followed her to the window. Seeing that she was using all her strength to knock on the window, he frowned and said, "This window is sealed from the outside. Just as he finished speaking, he heard a flurry of footsteps outside the door. Needless to say, the adultery-catching team had arrived. Yi Jioga looked down at her messy clothes, then at Dongfang Kei's cold yet flushed handsome face. She began to think about the possibility that the two of them were drinking tea and chatting in the inner palace. Hide here first. Dongfang Kei also realized something. A trace of viciousness flashed across his gloomy handsome face. He immediately opened an old cabinet in the corner of the inner palace. Yi Jioga did not have time to think and hurriedly crawled into the cabinet. Just as the cabinet door was closed, a loud bang came from outside the great hall, followed by a eunuch's shrill voice. "Young Miss Yi, why did you close the door?" "Your Highness Prince Dongling, why are you here?" Following that was the sound of people kneeling on the ground. Scram! Dongfang Kei's cold and murderous words caused the great hall to freeze. Yi Jioga could imagine that his peerlessly handsome face was covered in a layer of terrifying frost. This bastard looked thin, but he was actually very strong. Her thighs were bruised from the way he had clamped them. No, wasn't he crippled? How could he still be so lively as to pounce on her? *CK. This Dongfang Kei, who was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger, had already reached the level of a best actor. He was so good at pretending to be crippled. At this time, another group of people came in from outside the hall. Nanny Su's voice sounded in fear and trepidation. "Your Majesty, I saw Miss Yi walk into Jinxiu Palace with my own eyes." "Is that so? Where is that person now?" A dignified, elegant, and emotionless voice rang out. This. The old nanny stammered a few times and then went silent. The master and servant were echoing each other, and it was obvious that they were purposely saying it for Dongfang Kei to hear. Unfortunately, Dongfang Kei did not respond. The empress was not embarrassed. She said, "Miss Yi is a distinguished guest invited by me. She can't be lost. Look for her and see where she has gone." "Yes." Nanny Su responded loudly and spread out with her servants. It seemed that they were going to turn over the Jinxiu Palace. It was probably Dongfang Kei who had made his move, as several eunuchs and palace maids let out miserable cries. "Seventh brother, what's the meaning of this?" The crown prince's angry voice rang out. "You left in a hurry in the hall just now. I thought you were unable to take it. I didn't think that you were actually here to meet Yi Jioga. Although my engagement with Yi Jioga has already been annulled, she is still your ex-sister-in-law. How can you face me like this?" Yi Jioga hid in the cabinet and almost laughed at the crown prince's shamelessness. Ex-sister-in-law? He really had the cheek to say that. "Crown prince, there's no need to be agitated. Even if it's true that Prince Dongling and Yi Jioga are meeting in secret, it's not certain who's seducing who," the empress said indifferently. When Yi Jioga heard this, she immediately understood. It seemed that this trap was aimed at her. Even if Dongfang Kei pretended to be a cripple, he was still the emperor's most beloved son and the Bai family's only maternal grandson. She, a woman who shamelessly tried to seduce him, would definitely become the laughingstock of the entire capital. As long as the empress framed Prince Dongling's love medicine on her, her reputation would be tarnished. This move was truly ruthless. She would arouse the disdain of the people, and no one would help her get justice in the future. Apart from Dongfang Kei telling her to scram at the beginning and crippling a few eunuchs, he didn't show any signs of life. Yi Jioga guessed that the love medicine had started to take effect again. The pill she gave Dongfang Kei could only temporarily alleviate the effects of the medicine and not cure the root cause. If he couldn't take the antidote in time, Dongfang Kei would probably go crazy again. Yi Jioga felt sorry for the noble, beautiful and arrogant Prince Dongling under the influence of the love medicine and falling in love with a palace maid. However, if she was caught by the empress, she would probably be the one feeling sad. Just as the old maid was rummaging through the cabinets and preparing to find the inner hall, Yi Jioga suddenly felt a chill on her back. She turned her head and saw that the wall behind her had silently opened. An unfamiliar middle-aged palace maid appeared behind her and signaled with her eyes, "Follow me." Yi Jioga's intuition told her that this middle-aged palace maid was Hong Xiu, so she followed her into the tunnel without hesitation. The wall flipped over again. When the old maid opened the cabinet, it was empty. Yi Jioga followed the middle-aged palace maid through the tunnel and came to an extremely remote bamboo forest. "Eldest Miss Yi, this servant Hong Xiu is the chief palace maid of Splendid Palace." Aunt Hong Xiu bowed to Yi Jioga. She looked to be in her early 30s. Although her looks were average, her skin was white, her eyes were clear, and her black hair was neatly combed. She seemed to have an excellent upbringing. "So it's Aunt Hong Xiu. Why have you come to save me?" Yi Jioga was very curious. Had Bai Songling told Aunt Hongxiu in advance? This servant didn't come to save you. Hongxiu smiled helplessly. She had originally wanted to save His Highness. It turned out that someone had used the name of Prince Dongling to send her a letter yesterday and asked her to meet at the Peach Blossom Forest. There was a secret regarding the imperial noble consort to tell her. She knew that there might be something wrong, but she couldn't resist going to the Peach Blossom Forest. After confirming that there was no one inside, she hurried back to Splendid Palace. From afar, she saw that the Empress's people had surrounded the palace and forbade anyone from entering or leaving. She was worried that something had happened inside, so she wanted to sneak in through a secret passage to discuss the situation. She didn't expect to save Yi Jioge instead. I wonder how His Highness is now. Hongxiu looked at Yi Jioge anxiously. The Empress had deliberately set up such a big trap. She must be planning to harm His Highness. His Highness is fine. He was just drugged, Yi Jioge said disapprovingly. She didn't care about this kind of poison that could be solved with a single shot. In any case, there were beautiful palace maids everywhere. As long as Prince Dongling shouted, they would definitely fall to the ground. Chapter 70. What? Her Highness has been drugged? Hongxiu was shocked and her face immediately turned pale. She muttered to herself, I heard that the Empress had secretly obtained a bottle of love silk grass. I thought she wanted to use it on a certain concubine. I didn't think she would use it on His Highness. It was actually the love silk grass? Yi Jioge's brows twitched as he felt that something was amiss. This aphrodisiac was said to be able to turn a virtuous woman into a slut and a soft man into an iron rod with just one drop. If he didn't collapse after 10 rounds in one night, he wouldn't be liberated unless he broke a layer of skin. No, I have to go back and save His Highness immediately. Hongxiu was so anxious that her face turned red and pale. She lifted her feet and ran towards Splendid Palace. How could Her Noble Highness fall under this disgusting poison? I'll go with you. Yi Jioge quickly followed Aunt Hongxiu's footsteps. In that situation just now, the Prince of Dongling could have escaped through the secret passage and left her to face the Empress interrogation in Jinxiu Palace. However, he chose to send him away. This little bit of affection was enough for Yi Jioge to go back and save him. Thank you. Aunt Hongxiu nodded and brought Yi Jioge to the vicinity of Splendid Palace via a shortcut. At this time, the Splendid Palace still had 3 floors inside and 3 floors outside. Even the palace guards had come over. Aunt Hongxiu was about to rush inside, but she was stopped by Yi Jioge. Aunt Hongxiu, you won't be able to help the Prince of Dongling much if you go in now. Why don't you go get reinforcements? Yi Jioge whispered a few words to Aunt Hongxiu. A hint of hesitation flashed across Aunt Hongxiu's face. But His Highness is still inside. What should we do? With me here you don't have to worry. I guarantee that nothing will happen to His Highness. Yi Jioge smiled. When she found out that Dongfang Ke had been poisoned by the love silk grass, she had already thought of a way to cure him. Aunt Hongxiu looked at the confident Yi Jioge and inexplicably felt that her words were credible. Alright, I'll go get reinforcements. I'll leave His Highness to you. Aunt Hongxiu gritted her teeth and finally made up her mind. She turned around and left in a hurry. Yi Jioge tidied up his appearance. After confirming that there was nothing wrong, he walked out of the Splendid Palace. Then he pretended to be surprised and shouted, What are you doing? Hearing Yi Jioge's voice from inside, Nanny Su's face suddenly changed. She personally saw Yi Jioge walk into Splendid Palace and personally close the palace door. How did Yi Jioge escape? Let her in, the Empress said calmly. There was no expression on her dignified and virtuous face. She had already guessed that Yi Jioge must have left the Splendid Palace through a secret passage. She did not expect that there would be a secret passage in this rundown palace. She had neglected it. However, it didn't matter. Being able to see through a secret of the Splendid Palace was also a gain. Yes. Nanny Su hurriedly went out to welcome them, and the guards surrounding the palace immediately stepped aside. When Yi Jioge saw Nanny Su, he took the initiative to complain, Nanny Su, why did you leave me at the entrance of Splendid Palace? It's hard for me to even drink water. I went out to look for you for a long time, but I didn't see anyone. It's my negligence. I hope First Miss can forgive me. Mammy Su's gloomy expression changed and she said with a smile. It doesn't matter if you neglect me, but if you neglect the other noble ladies, I'm afraid that your head will be hard to keep. Yi Jioge said with a smile that wasn't a smile. Then, regardless of Nanny Su's ugly expression, she walked into the main hall with her head held high. The main hall of Splendid Palace was lit up with lanterns, illuminating the inside clearly. Dongfang Ke sat behind the Hall of Bountiful Treasures with his head slightly lowered. His handsome face was hidden in the shadows, and from afar he looked like a statue. The Empress and the Crown Prince stood opposite Dongfang Ke with their men. There was a clear distinction between the two, and they were in a standoff. When the Crown Prince saw Yi Jioge walk in, he immediately scolded in displeasure. "Yi Jioge, where did you run off to? Do you know that Imperial Mother was very worried about you? When she heard that you were missing, she immediately brought people to look for you." His tone was as if Yi Jioge was someone important to him. Yi Jioge secretly rolled his eyes. Just as he was about to mock this shameless Crown Prince, the Empress opened her red lips and said, "Crown Prince, it's good that you found him. Don't talk so much." "Yes." The Crown Prince immediately nodded respectfully. Only then did the Empress look at Yi Jioge and use a loving attitude to say to him, "Jioge, the Imperial Palace is not like your Yi Mansion. In the future, be careful when you enter the palace and don't casually walk around. Otherwise, if something happens, it'll be hard to explain." "Your Majesty is right. Jioge knows her wrongs." After Yi Jioge admitted her wrongs very honestly, she acted as if she had just noticed Dongfang Quebec. She said in surprise, "Hey, what's wrong with His Highness, the Prince of Dongling? Why is his face so red? Could he have been poisoned?" With that, she quickly walked towards Dongfang Quebec. When Dongfang Ke saw her walk over, he raised his head slightly, revealing a pair of black, bloodshot eyes. There was a turbulent undercurrent in them. Clearly he had reached the limit of his endurance. Yi Jioge was shocked by his gaze. She hurriedly controlled the thunderfire needles and pierced them into a few major acupuncture points on his body. Dongfang Ke didn't move at all, allowing her to do as she pleased. Yi Jioge pierced 13 needles in a row. The last one was on his philtrum. Purple spiritual energy passed through the thunderfire needles and passed through Dongfang Ke's entire body. Dongfang Ke's pupils contracted, and a drop of light green blood seeped out of his white skin. That drop of blood was extremely viscous, like a green crystal. It exuded an incredibly sweet fragrance. Just smelling it, Yi Jioge felt her entire body heat up and her blood vessels surge. She couldn't help but sigh inwardly. This love silk grass was indeed the most potent medicine in the palace. Just smelling it was already so potent. It was hard to imagine how Dongfang Ke, who had been poisoned, would feel. To be honest, he was even more impressive than the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for being able to endure until now. When the Empress saw Yi Jioge help Dongfang Ke expel the poison, she couldn't help but raise her brows. Didn't they say that this damn girl was a good-for-nothing? How could she know acupuncture? And looking at her technique, it was even better than the old imperial physicians in the palace. She could even force out the love silk grass. But this time Yi Jioge had been too clever for her own good. By helping Dongfang Ke expel the poison, she wasn't saving him, but harming him. The Crown Prince didn't know what the Empress was planning. He thought that Yi Jioge had really saved Dongfang Quebec. He immediately shouted in exasperation, "Yi Jioge, what are you doing? Is your Highness blind? Can't you see that I'm helping His Highness cure the poison?" Yi Jioge laughed coldly. Unexpectedly, as soon as she finished speaking, Dongfang Ke's face suddenly became incomparably pale. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Then his eyelids drooped and he fell limply to the ground. His breathing became extremely weak and he looked like he was on the brink of death. Yi Jioge jumped in fright and quickly reached out to take Dongfang Ke's pulse. She confirmed that her method of removing the love silk grass was not wrong. There must be another reason why Dongfang Ke's condition had worsened. She had to find the reason as soon as possible. Otherwise, both she and Dongfang Ke would be finished. Chapter 71. As Yi Jioge took Dongfang Ke's pulse, she opened her spiritual eye to inspect his body. She saw that his organs were all black, and only his heart meridian had a ball of golden light protecting his heart. His pulse was also very strange, sometimes fast and sometimes slow. His liver, spleen, and kidneys were almost undetectable. This was clearly a sign of being poisoned. And looking at the condition of his body, it was a strange demonic poison that was even harder to deal with than the soul detachment demonic poison that Yi Yu had. Previously she thought that Dongfang Ke was pretending to be crippled, but he was actually crippled. It was just that the love silk grass had temporarily suppressed the demonic poison in his body, allowing him to attack her. Now that she had forced the love silk grass out, the demonic poison that was out of control immediately rebounded and quickly invaded Dongfang Ke's organs. If she did not quickly think of a solution, Dongfang Ke would probably die from the poison. Yi Jioga broke out in cold sweat, and could not help but raise her head to look at the Empress. She could only see her red lipstick curling up slightly, revealing a pleased smile. Her eyes, which were similar to the Crown Prince's, flashed with a malicious light. Obviously all of this was planned by her. Yi Jioga could not help but grit her teeth. This Empress was truly scheming and ruthless, setting up a trap that was interconnected. If Dongfang Ke really treated her as the antidote, the moment the love silk grass was removed, he would die on her body. At that time, not only would she not be able to avenge herself, she would also bear the crime of killing Dongfang Quebec. No matter how famous her grandfather was, he would not be able to protect her, a murderer. Yi Jioga was not someone who would resign herself to fate. In this situation she had to fight for a chance of survival. She still had the 1,000-year snow lotus pill that she got from Yi Yuxuan. If not, she still had the heart of the Tree of God. Although Zishang had warned her not to let others know the secret of the heart of the Tree of God, but in this situation she could only take a gamble. Yi Jioga seemed to be thinking a lot, but it was all in the blink of an eye. After she made her decision, she leaped onto Dongfang Ke's body and shouted in panic, "Your Highness, what's wrong? Quickly wake up." She used her body as a shield and stuffed the 1,000-year snow lotus pill into Dongfang Ke's mouth. She then secretly stabbed the thunder fire needle into her own finger and chanted the heart of the Tree of God before stabbing it into Dongfang Ke's body. After that strand of life energy entered Dongfang Ke's body. His body shook violently and he spat out a mouthful of black blood. The Empress had been watching Yi Jioga's actions with the attitude of a cat toying with a mouse. In her heart, Dongfang Ke was already a dead man. As long as she could capture Yi Jioga, the murderer, she would be able to help Dongfang Ke collect his corpse. She didn't expect that the dead Dongfang Ke would suddenly come back to life. The Crown Prince's eyes widened as he shouted at the guards, "Men, arrest Yi Jioga, the murderer." He had waited so long for the day that Dongfang Ke breathed his last. How could he let Yi Jioga spoil his plans? After the Empress came to her senses, she immediately ordered Nanny Su, "Arrest Yi Jioga." Yes. Nanny Su immediately turned around and rushed to Yi Jioga. Her right hand formed a claw, and her fingertips glowed with a dark red light. Like a ferocious tiger, she clawed at Yi Jioga's back. If Yi Jioga hadn't dodged, his heart would have been dug out by Senior Nurse Su. Yi Jioga had no choice but to withdraw the heart of the sacred tree. He turned around and exchanged a palm strike with Nanny Su. There was a loud bang. Purple and red light flew in all directions. Yi Jioga staggered back 3 steps. She felt her right hand go numb and painful. A cold evil energy flowed through her palm and into her body. This feeling was similar to that of the heretic cultivator in the basement. Yi Jioga looked up at Nanny Su in shock. He didn't think that this old woman was also a heretic cultivator, and she was even more powerful than that heretic cultivator. "Jioga, I advise you to obediently surrender. Even though you harmed 7th brother, you only wanted to save him. If Imperial Father blames you, I will definitely put in a good word for you in front of him. Imperial Father might even spare your life for Great Master Yun's sake." The Crown Prince saw that victory was in his grasp, so he pretended to persuade him. Yi Jioga didn't say anything and silently raised his middle finger at him. Even though the Crown Prince didn't understand the meaning of this gesture, he still understood that Yi Jioga was looking down on him. He was so angry that his face immediately turned red. This bitch, Yi Jioga, still dared to put on a brave front even when death was at hand. Once she was caught, he would definitely lock her in the dungeon and torture her day and night, making her wish that she was dead. The Empress' face also darkened. She said coldly to Nanny Su, "Don't waste time. Finish the battle quickly to avoid any more trouble." Nanny Su nodded in understanding, then turned and flew towards Dongfang, Quebec. A layer of dark red light faintly floated under her feet, carrying a strong murderous aura. It was obvious that she wanted to kill Dongfang Ke on the spot. Yi Jioga's pupils shrank. She took out a bone-softening pill from her sleeve and placed it in her palm. Once again her palm met Nanny Su's. This time Brother Yi Jio took 4 steps back. Nanny Su took 2 steps back. Yi Jioga's blood surged. She barely managed to swallow the blood in her throat, but a trickle still seeped out from the corner of her mouth. She raised the back of her hand to wipe away the blood at the corner of her mouth. She bent her body slightly and stood in front of Dongfang Ke in an attacking stance. Her expression was as fierce as a lone wolf's, carrying a frightening aura. It was as if she would take a bite out of anyone who dared to approach her. Nanny Su's expression was extremely unsightly. The hand she used to meet Yi Jioga's palm trembled slightly. Her palm was already completely red. She had been injured by Yi Jioga's bone-softening pill. Nanny Su had been by the Empress' side for so many years, but this was the first time she had been injured. Furthermore, the person who had injured her was Shang Jing's most famous good-for-nothing ugly girl. This kind of humiliation was unbearable. She was shocked and furious. She made up her mind to tear this damn girl into 1,000 pieces. She no longer suppressed her strength and used 10% of her power to strike Yi Jioga. A faint layer of light red light suddenly appeared on Nanny Su's body. It was like a protective barrier that enveloped her upper body. This was a protective spiritual light that only advanced spiritualists who were preparing to advance to spiritualists would have. Yi Jioga's pupils shrank. He never thought that Nanny Su would actually be an advanced spiritualist. She could not help but secretly complain. She was only a beginner spiritualist. Although she could rely on her powerful spirit power to defeat intermediate spiritualists, she was still lacking when it came to advanced spiritualists. Even if she wanted to use poison, it could not be used. Before it could land on Nanny Su's body, it was blocked by her protective spiritual light. In this critical moment, Yi Jioga could not help but call out in her heart, "Zishang, if you don't wake up, just wait for me to sleep with my corpse." Unfortunately, Zishang did not have the slightest reaction. Seeing that Nanny Su's dark red palm was about to strike, Yi Jioga wanted to dodge but did not dare to. If Nanny Su's palm landed on Dongfang Ke, who was behind her, even if she survived, she would not be able to wash away the crime of murdering a prince. Chapter 72. Just as Yi Jioga was about to fight Wet Nurse Su, the palace maids and eunuchs' panicked voices came from the door. "This servant greets your majesty. Long live your majesty." The emperor was here. Wet Nurse Su was stunned by this sudden news. Yi Jioga took the chance to pick up Dongfang Ke and run toward the door. Wet Nurse Su didn't dare to chase after Dongfang Ke in front of the emperor, so she quickly returned to the empress' side. The empress glared at Wet Nurse Su and put on a dignified and virtuous face as she walked toward the door. A bright yellow figure appeared at the door. Xianwu Emperor strode in. He was 7 feet tall, his skin was slightly dark and he had a short beard. He had a very dignified aura and one could tell with one look that he was an unyielding emperor, not to mention that he was a beginner spirit master. Xianwu Emperor swept his gaze over Jinxiu Palace before his gaze landed behind Yi Jioga and Dongfang Quebec. He asked coldly, "What's going on?" The Empress said calmly, "Your Majesty, as you can see." Yi Jioga ran to Jinxiu Palace to meet Prince Dongling. The Crown Prince immediately followed the Empress' words and said with grievance and anger, "Father, I was wondering why Yi Jioga would suddenly break off the engagement. I didn't expect her to like 7th brother. In order to have sex with 7th brother, she disregarded the demon poison in his body and wanted to drug him. When we received the news and rushed over, 7th brother was already unconscious. We wanted to capture her, but she used 7th brother as a shield, causing him to vomit blood. Imperial father, please save 7th younger brother." Towards the end, the Crown Prince cried as if he really had a deep brotherly love with Dongfang Quebec. Xianwu Emperor immediately frowned and looked at Yi Jioga. "Is this true?" "Your Majesty and His Highness the Crown Prince's ability to distort the truth is truly admirable. I have nothing else to say. Your Majesty, why don't you wait for Prince Dongling to wake up before asking him?" Yi Jioga couldn't be bothered to argue with the Empress and the Crown Prince. The Emperor was family with them. No matter what she said, the Emperor's heart would be biased towards them. It was better to wait for Dongfang Ke to wake up. One sentence from him was worth 100. What happened to Ke? Emperor Xianwu looked at his pale and unconscious son. He could no longer maintain his dignified expression. He roared angrily at the others, "Are you all dead? You saw the Prince of Dongling injured like this and you didn't even think to call Spirit Dr. Ling over?" "That's right. I told you to summon the Spirit Doctor just now. Why isn't the Spirit Doctor here yet? What are you guys doing?" The Crown Prince scolded the guards beside him. "This subordinate is incompetent. Please forgive me, Crown Prince." The guard immediately knelt down and asked for forgiveness. "Why aren't you going to check out the situation?" The Crown Prince kicked the guard and said anxiously, "Even if you have to carry him, you have to bring the spiritual doctor over." Yi Jioga glanced at the Crown Prince's clumsy acting skills and extended his hand to check Dongfang Ke's pulse. The 1,000 Mountain Snow Lotus elixir had not been fed to him for nothing. The demonic poison in Dongfang Ke's body had already stabilized, and the golden light at his heart meridian had also rapidly recovered, forcing the demonic poison back to the meridians in his legs. "Jioga also knows how to take a pulse?" Emperor Xian asked curiously. The last time he saw Yi Jiuge was on the day Yin Tianwei went missing. Yi Yuxuan had brought him into the palace to ask for help. At that time Yi Jiuge was around 7 or 8 years old. She looked thin and small without any spiritual energy. Later on, she had indeed grown into a good-for-nothing, so he didn't pay much attention to her. Now that he saw her today, he realized that this girl's aura was steady but not lacking in sharpness. She had the bearing of her grandfather, Yin Tianwei. Your Majesty, you really like to joke. Your servant's grandfather is the #1 spirit pill master in Thunder Country. No matter how good-for-nothing I am, I wouldn't dare to disgrace my grandfather's reputation. Yi Jiuge's attitude towards Emperor Xianwu had always been respectful and calm. It was as if the person standing in front of her wasn't the Thunder Country's emperor, nor was it a spirit master with a higher cultivation than her, but just an ordinary elder. Emperor Xianwu was rather surprised. Even the crown prince would subconsciously lower his head when he saw him. He didn't expect that this little girl Yi Jiuge would actually have such courage. As expected of the Yun family's bloodline, the crown prince was extremely dissatisfied. Yi Jiuge, how can you speak to the emperor like that? Use your mouth. What else? Yi Jiuge looked at the crown prince as if he was looking at an idiot. You. The crown prince glared and was about to explode. Crown prince. Emperor Xianwu frowned and looked at the crown prince unhappily. The crown prince immediately didn't dare to make a sound. Emperor Xianwu's expression relaxed and he asked Yi Jiuge, "Then, can you diagnose what poison Prince Dongling is suffering from?" "Demon poison," Yi Jiuge replied. "Who in Thunder Country doesn't know that 7th brother is suffering from demon poison?" The crown prince coldly laughed. "That's right. Everyone in Thunder Country knows that Prince Dongling is suffering from demon poison, but they don't know that this demon poison isn't from the demon race. It's made by adding spirit poison," Yi Jiuge said calmly. The empress and the crown prince wanted to harm her. If she didn't retaliate, how could she repay their kindness? Nonsense. The crown prince cried out. "Crown prince, how do you know that I'm talking nonsense? Are you also a spirit doctor? Or do you also have a level 7 spirit pill master grandfather?" Yi Jiuge looked at the crown prince mockingly. Father invited so many spirit doctors to treat 7th brother. They all said that 7th brother is suffering from demon poison, the crown prince retorted. No matter how outstanding those spirit doctors are, can they be more outstanding than my grandfather? Yi Jiuge looked at the crown prince with disdain. Your grandfather Master Yun is outstanding, not you. Now that Master Yun isn't here, how can you be sure that 7th brother isn't suffering from demon poison? The crown prince said. Because the antidote pill I gave Prince Dongling can suppress the poison in his body. Everyone knows that antidote pills can only cure spirit poison, not demon poison. Prince Dongling's antidote pill is effective, which means that the poison in his body is spirit poison. Yi Jiuge's expression was solemn and his words were reasonable. The crown prince couldn't retort. After all, he wasn't a spirit doctor. He couldn't say that he was the one who brought the demon poison back. When Emperor Xianwu heard Yi Jiuge's words, a sharp light shot out of his eyes and he asked, "Then do you have a way to cure the poison in Prince Dongling's body?" "No," Yi Jiuge said straightforwardly. The demon poison in Dongfang Kei's body was too powerful. She didn't have the confidence to cure it and she didn't want to take this trouble. "I thought you had some great ability, but it turns out you were just bragging." The crown prince wouldn't admit it. When he heard Yi Jiuge say that he couldn't cure Dongfang Kei, his tense heart immediately relaxed. Emperor Xianwu knew that Yi Jiuge couldn't cure the poison, but he wasn't disappointed. Even if Yi Jiuge said that she could cure Dongfang Kei's poison, he wouldn't believe her. He didn't believe that Yi Jiuge had this ability. Chapter 73. At this time, Spirit Dr. Zhang from the palace finally arrived. Spirit Dr. Zhang was about 50 years old. His temples were white and he was short and chubby. He looked like a good person. "Spirit Dr. Zhang, take a look at Prince Dongling," Emperor Xianwu immediately ordered. "Yes." Spirit Dr. Zhang wiped the sweat off his forehead and hurriedly crouched down to take Dongfang Kei's pulse. He had been taking Dongfang Kei's pulse before, so he was very familiar with it. After a closer inspection, he realized something was wrong. That rapid pulse seemed to be poisoned by the love silk grass. Spirit Dr. Zhang's nose twitched. As expected, he smelled something sweet on Dongfang Kei's body. His heart skipped a beat and he couldn't help but glance at the Empress. The Empress's eyes drooped slightly. Her cold gaze made Spirit Dr. Zhang shudder. Spirit Dr. Zhang had been in the palace for a long time and knew that he couldn't participate in palace fights like this. Otherwise he might lose his head at any time. He retracted his thoughts and ignored the sweet scent. He continued to take Dongfang Kei's pulse and then said respectfully to the emperor, "Your Majesty, the Yao poison in Prince Dongling's body is fine. It's the same as before." Yi Jioga said that the antidote pill can only cure spirit poisons, not Yao poisons. The fact that Prince Dongling took the antidote pill means that the poison in his body contains spirit poisons. Is that true? Emperor Xianwu asked. This. Spirit Dr. Zhang broke out in a cold sweat. He didn't dare to answer a question like this. If he admitted Yi Jioga's words, then Dongfang Kei hadn't been injured by a Yao, but by a human. If this news got out, it would definitely cause an uproar in Thunder Country. At that time it would be hard to keep his head. What? Do you want Zhen to teach you how to speak? Emperor Xianwu's expression darkened. Your Majesty, please calm down. Spirit Dr. Zhang hurriedly knelt down and begged for forgiveness. Then he braced himself and said, "This official has read about it in Great Master Yun's medical book but has never verified it. So, I don't dare to make a judgment on His Highness Prince Dongling." Emperor Xianwu was silent for a moment, then said coolly, "Rise. Since it was written by Great Master Yun, then it can't be wrong. Go back and study it. See if Prince Dongling has any other spirit poisons. Maybe it's from a previous injury." That one sentence proved that Dongfang Kei had been harmed by the Yao. Even if there was a spiritual poison, it had been left behind in the past. Yes. Dr. Zhang wiped his sweat and stood up shakily. With other colleagues sharing the risk, his head was finally saved. Emperor Xianwu then calmly said to Yi Jioga, "Jioga, even if you like the Prince of the Eastern Tomb, you can't use such despicable methods to achieve your goals. I'll let it go this time, but if there's a next time, don't blame me for punishing you." His confident tone and threatening gaze made it seem as if he was certain that Yi Jioga would admit to the crime. Yi Jioga's eyes darkened. Dongfang Kei had left the main hall. He had inexplicably been poisoned by the aphrodisiac in Splendid Palace. Even if he thought with his toes, he would know that it was the work of the Empress and the Crown Prince. Not only did Emperor Xianwu not pursue the matter, but he was also afraid that it would damage the reputation of the imperial family, so he wanted to push the blame to her. What a good plan. If it was the Yi Jioga of the past, he would probably have to suffer. However, Yi Jioga did not intend to accept this shameless accusation. When Emperor Xianwu saw that Yi Jioga did not reply, he instantly frowned and said unhappily, "Jioga, do you have an opinion against me? Nonsense, if you want me to be the scapegoat, do you think I have to accept it with a smile?" Yi Jioga really wanted to curse Emperor Xianwu, but she still endured it. "I don't have an opinion, but I'm afraid that the Prince of the Eastern Tomb will." Yi Jioga squatted down and injected another needle into Dongfang Kei's body. When she took Dongfang Kei's pulse just now, she found that he was already awake. He was just pretending to be unconscious. Now, Emperor Xianwu wanted her to be the scapegoat for poisoning the prince. If Dongfang Kei still did not wake up and clear her name, she did not mind injecting him a few more times. Dongfang Kei's fan-like eyelashes trembled slightly after Yi Jioga pricked him with the needle. He finally opened his eyes. "Imperial Father, why are you here?" Dongfang Kei looked at Emperor Xianwu with a confused expression. His tone was filled with doubt. "Imperial Father heard that you fainted in Splendid Palace, so I specially came to see you. How do you feel now?" Emperor Xianwu asked with concern. "Your son's head hurts." Dongfang Kei forcefully pinched his temples and acted as if he was recalling something. Then he said, "Your son remembers that the Empress just sent a message to your son. She said that someone was waiting for me in Splendid Palace and wanted to talk about some matters regarding Imperial Mother. Where is she now?" "The Empress." Emperor Xianwu's eyebrows jumped, and he immediately looked at the Empress. He knew very well that this was most likely the Empress's doing. However, his son was fine and the person they were dealing with was insignificant trash, Yi Jioga, so he wanted to turn a blind eye. But now, Dongfang Kei even brought up the deceased imperial noble consort. He could no longer pretend to be deaf and mute. After all, the Bai family was still guarding the borders of Dongfang, Quebec. "Prince of the Eastern Tomb, I didn't send anyone to send you a message. Did you remember wrongly?" The Empress replied calmly. She was not at all worried that Emperor Xianwu would blame her. She knew Emperor Xianwu too well. As long as she was still useful, he would not touch her. Perhaps. Emperor Xianwu looked down and said calmly. The Empress had always been ruthless and did not leave anyone alive. Even if he said that he had been poisoned by the love silk grass, He would not be able to find the culprit. Instead, it would make his father suspicious. It was better not to say anything. That's right, Your Highness, Prince of the Eastern Tomb. Just now His Highness said that I drugged you with love silk grass and wanted to force myself on you. How do you feel now? Yijioga asked sincerely from the side. Ridiculous, preposterous. Dongfang Ke sneered. His black eyes were like sharp blades as he looked at the crown prince. I fell asleep as soon as I entered Splendid Palace. No one drugged me at all. Even if second brother is dissatisfied with Miss Yi because of the engagement, you can't accuse me like this. The crown prince's expression changed. He wanted to ask Spirit Dr. Zhang to testify that Dongfang Ke had indeed been drugged. However, he also knew that if they continued arguing, it would not be good for him and the Empress. He forced out a smile and said, Second brother has misunderstood. Second brother, although Master Yun isn't in Thunder Country, you can't bully Miss Yi like this. Miss Yi is Master Yun's only descendant. It's fine that you broke off the engagement without permission, but how can you slander her so casually? If this gets out, others will think that you're an ungrateful, heartless man who's worse than pigs and dogs. Dongfang Ke seriously lectured the crown prince like he was his grandson. The crown prince's face turned green and white. However, seeing that Emperor Xianwu did not say anything, he endured it. Yijioga did not think that the seemingly quiet Dongfang Ke would have such a venomous tongue. He could not help but praise him in his heart. He did not think that Dongfang Ke was not enough to make the crown prince speechless. He continued to ask, Second brother, am I right? Chapter 74. Just as the crown prince's face turned ashen and he was about to explode, Xianwu Emperor finally spoke. Since it's a misunderstanding, let's talk it out. Ke, your body isn't well, go back and rest. Then he gave a look to the head eunuch beside him. Guards carried the wheelchair in. The leader was Lei Peng, whom Yijioga had seen at the back mountain of Putuo Temple. His eyes were filled with anxiety. He reached out to help Dongfang Ke up but was rejected. Eldest Miss Yi, can you help this king? Dongfang Ke looked calmly at Yijioga. His eyes were as clear as the lake, calm and serene. Of course. Yijioga helped Dongfang Ke up and then pushed his wheelchair out of Jinxiu Palace. The Empress didn't say anything from beginning to end. Her cold gaze followed her like a shadow. Yijioga pushed Dongfang Ke to the Imperial Garden and saw Aunt Hongxiu standing there anxiously. Seeing them, she quickly walked up and asked, Your Highness, are you all right? This king is fine, thanks to eldest Miss Yi helping me expel the poison, Dongfang Ke said calmly. He knew very well that if Yijioga hadn't saved him, he might have died in Jinxiu Palace. Thank you, eldest Miss Yi. Aunt Hongxiu looked gratefully at Yijioga. If she hadn't promised herself, she wouldn't have been able to make up her mind to ask the emperor for help. Aunt Hongxiu, you're too polite. Didn't you save me too? Yijioga smiled. Aunt, let's talk later. Lei Peng glanced warily at the Imperial Garden. This place was filled with the Empress' eyes and ears. It really wasn't a good place to chat. All right, then this servant will return to Jinxiu Palace. Aunt Hongxiu bowed to Dongfang Ke and then quickly left. If eldest Miss Yi has time, can you take this king back? Dongfang Ke still had many things to ask Yijioga, especially about the demon poison in his body. Sure. Yijioga also had many questions to ask Dongfang Quebec. For example, Emperor Xianwu seemed to love him, so why did he allow the Empress and Crown Prince to harm him? He wasn't even willing to talk about the demon poison in Dongfang Ke's body, much less admit that Dongfang Ke had been harmed. The palace was full of mysteries and she really wanted to figure them out. After all, the Empress, the Crown Prince and Emperor Xianwu, who wanted to make her a scapegoat, were all her enemies. Dongfang Ke's royal residence was built in the East Main Street's Gourd Alley. Those who resided here were all descendants of the royal family, and they were all from prestigious families. Even so, his imperial residence was the most magnificent on the entire street. This was enough to show how much Emperor Xianwu doted on him. Yijioga followed Dongfang Ke into the luxurious palace. An intermediate spiritualist elder with white hair and beard approached him with a straight body. Seeing Yijioga by Dongfang Ke's side, although he was surprised, he did not show it on his face. He respectfully bowed to Dongfang Ke and asked, Your Highness, do you have any instructions? Old He Benwang wants to go to the study to discuss some matters with Miss Yi. Help Benwang prepare some refreshments to entertain her. Dongfang Ke instructed. Yes. Old He nodded and went to prepare personally. When Yijioga followed Dongfang Ke into the study, he saw a cup of steaming hot spiritual tea on the table, the refreshing fragrance of the tea permeating the entire room. On the white jade plate were red pastries in the shape of flower petals, which looked very delicious. "Miss Yi, please sit." After Dongfang Ke politely invited Yi Jioge to sit, he pushed the wheelchair to the back of the study. Lei Peng immediately left the study with his people, not forgetting to close the door. "May I know what Prince Dongling wishes to discuss with me?" After Yi Jioge sat down, she picked up the teacup and took a sip. The fragrance lingered in her mouth. It was indeed a high-grade spiritual tea. She then tasted a piece of pastry. It was sour and sweet, with the faint fragrance of roses, making one want to eat more after eating it. Dongfang Ke waited for Yi Jioge to finish eating before asking, "Miss Yi, you said that the demonic poison in my body was mixed with spiritual poison. Is that true?" "It's not true. I said it on purpose to provoke the Empress and the Crown Prince. You're probably poisoned by a Class 5 demonic beast, but I can't deduce what kind of beast it is." Yi Jioge put down the teacup. She mainly cultivated in poisons of the human race, so she was not very familiar with poisons of the demonic race. She could only wait for Zishang to wake up before asking him. If she could confirm the source of the demonic poison, she might even be able to think of a way to cure Dongfang Quebec. However, there was no need to let Dongfang Ke know about this in advance. After all, the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. "I see." Dongfang Ke was rather disappointed when he heard Yi Jioge's reply. If the demonic poison in his body was mixed with spiritual poison, then it meant that these conflicts were within the human race. However, if it was pure demonic poison, then it meant that the Empress and the Crown Prince had already colluded with the demonic race. This was definitely not something he did not want to see. Yi Jioge did not know of Dongfang Ke's worries and comforted him. "Your Highness, there is no need to be so nervous. Although the demonic poison in your body is difficult to cure, at least it won't take your life." He just couldn't walk. "Miss, since you have a way to suppress the demonic poison in my body, can you help me get rid of it?" Dongfang Ke pulled himself together and asked. "I'm sorry, I don't have a way right now. Previously, I used a 1,000-year-old snow lotus pill that grandfather left for me to barely suppress your demonic poison." Yi Jioge saw that Dongfang Ke did not realize that she had used the heart of the divine tree and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. "Rumor has it that you obtained the pills left behind by Grandmaster Yun in the 10,000 Zhang Abyss. Could this 1,000-year-old snow lotus pill be one of them?" A bright light flashed in Dongfang Ke's eyes. "Sorry, I can't tell you about that." Yi Jioge smiled slightly. Although she had gone through thick and thin with Dongfang Ke earlier, they were not familiar enough to talk about this matter. This prince was rash. Dongfang Ke did not ask any more questions. Instead, he talked about something that made him very conflicted. Just now in the splendid palace, this prince was poisoned by the love silk grass. "This prince has offended you." Before Dongfang Ke could finish speaking, Yi Jioge had already waved her hand indifferently and said, "It's fine. I know you were poisoned. I won't blame you. It was just being touched and pinched." He didn't kiss her on the lips or take off her clothes. It wasn't a big deal. Dongfang Ke's handsome face stiffened. His emotions were incomparably complicated. If it was any other woman who had been humiliated like this, they would have probably already shouted for him to take responsibility. He did not think that Yi Jioge would be so free and easy. It made him feel very uncomfortable. However, when he looked at his legs, he could not say the words that he wanted to take responsibility. He was currently a person with crippled legs. He really was not worthy of Yi Jioge. It was no wonder that she did not care. Yi Jioge did not know that Dongfang Ke had such a high evaluation of her. It was so high that he felt that he was not worthy of her. She thought that Dongfang Ke was depressed about being poisoned by the Empress. She could not help but say, "I have some questions in my heart that I have to ask. Please forgive me, Your Highness." Chapter 75. Lady Yi, if you have any questions, please ask. Dongfang Ke put away his gloomy mood and revealed a sincere smile. "Your Highness, the Emperor clearly knows that you were harmed by the Empress. Why didn't he hold her responsible?" Yi Jioge felt that it was strange. If Dongfang Ke was an unfavored prince, it would be fine. However, Dongfang Ke was the son of Emperor Xianwu's most beloved woman, and the external sect was so powerful. Emperor Xianwu had gone too far. Imperial father has his own considerations. We can't be suspicious. Dongfang Ke said calmly as if he was already used to this. Yi Jioge instantly understood. This former genius was the same as her and had a scumbag father. Emperor Xianwu must have suspected his son because the Bai clan was too powerful. Even though he was crippled, he didn't let him go. As expected, the imperial family was the most heartless. Dongfang Ke didn't want to talk about this anymore, so he said, "Lady Yi, I can't repay you for saving my life. I hope you like this gift." Then, in front of Yi Jioge, he took out a small red embroidered box from a secret compartment in the study and handed it to her. "Open it." Yi Jioge opened it and was shocked to find that inside the embroidered box was a 3-inch long silver snake. However, when she looked closely, she realized that the silver snake wasn't alive. It was an exquisitely made whip. A whip had 7 sections and 9 sections. This whip only had 3 sections, which was why it looked like a small snake. This is a second-rank spirit tool, the Lightning Snake Illusionary Whip. My maternal grandfather accidentally found it when he was fighting against the demon clan. Though it's damaged and only has 3 sections, it's still better than normal spirit tools and is most suitable for Thunder Spirit Masters. Dongfang Ke looked calm, but he was a little nervous. Previously, the Crown Prince tried his best to take it from him, but he didn't agree. He didn't know if Yi Jioge would like it or not. "It's a spirit tool?" Yi Jioge was a little excited. It wasn't easy to make a spirit tool these days. Not only did one have to gather materials with abundant spiritual power, one also had to find a powerful and reliable tool refiner to make it. Though this spirit tool was damaged, it shone brightly. The craftsmanship was perfect and it definitely wasn't cheap. If it was someone else, they would have declined the offer. However, Yi Jioge felt that he had expended a great deal of effort to save Dongfang Ke, so taking a lightning snake illusionary whip from him was nothing. He smiled and said, "Since the Prince of Dongling is so kind, it would be impolite of me to refuse." Dongfang Ke couldn't help but smile. He liked Yi Jioge's straightforward personality. Just as Yi Jioge put away the brocade box, Lei Peng's respectful voice came from outside the door. "Your Highness, a mother of the Yi family is waiting outside, saying that she wants to see the eldest Mississippi. It must be Mother Qing." Yi Jioge cursed inwardly. He had forgotten to inform Mother Qing when he came out. She must have waited at the palace gate for a long time before she found this place. "Since that's the case, I won't keep you any longer," Dongfang Ke said tactfully. "Lei Peng, send Miss Yi out." "Yes." Lei Peng nodded and said respectfully to Yi Jioge, "Miss Yi, please." "Then I'll take my leave." Yi Jioge bade farewell to Dongfang Ke and left with Lei Peng. Dongfang Ke looked at Yi Jioge's departing figure, his handsome and gloomy face flickering. No one knew what he was thinking. At this time, a voice came from outside the study. "Your Highness, come in." Dongfang Ke came to his senses and said. After the window opened, a man wearing black clothes flipped over and entered. It was Yi Jioge's old acquaintance Bai Songling. "Why are you here?" Dongfang Ke asked. "I heard that you were plotted against by the Empress in the Imperial Palace. I was really worried and wanted to come and see. Are you all right?" After Bai Songling finished speaking, he sat down. It could be seen that he and Dongfang Ke were very familiar with each other. The way they interacted did not seem like subordinates but more like friends and brothers. "I'm fine." Dongfang Ke shook his head and said, "It's all thanks to Yi Jioge for saving my life. I originally wanted to use this opportunity to have you save Yi Jioge so that she would owe you a favor. I didn't think that we would owe her a favor instead." Bai Songling was extremely emotional. This Yi Jioge was simply a lucky star. She always had a way to turn danger into safety. Previously, when they and Yi Jioge went to save Yi Rui, it was all thanks to her that they had escaped from the fire. She really is a lucky star. Dongfang Ke was very much in agreement. It would be great if this lucky star belonged to him. Bai Songling did not know that Dongfang Ke already had feelings for Yi Jioge and continued to ask, "Right, didn't you enter the palace to meet the Emperor today? How did you fall for the Empress scheme?" The Empress is becoming bolder and bolder. She dares to act against this prince in front of Imperial Father. Dongfang Ke's expression immediately darkened. Emperor Xianwu had previously obtained a flask of spirit wine that could consolidate and increase one's cultivation. He had taken it out to share with his sons. A flask of spirit wine was poured out according to the age of the princes. Because the great imperial prince had died prematurely, it started from the crown prince. When he arrived in front of Dongfang Ke, he faintly felt that something was wrong. He secretly used a silver needle to test the spirit wine, but there was no problem. Because everyone was drinking the same wine, he had no evidence and could not turn hostile, so he still drank it. After drinking it, he quickly discovered that he had been poisoned. He wanted to go to Splendid Palace to find Aunt Hongxiu for help before the drug took effect, but he had not expected to run into Yi Jioge. The Empress is becoming more and more arrogant, but His Majesty is actually not doing anything. Bai Songling frowned. The Empress had really gone crazy to act in front of His Majesty. However, the craziest thing was that His Majesty had actually endured it. I can't see through Imperial Father's actions these past few years. Dongfang Ke looked out the window. His dark eyes were as deep as an abyss, revealing a heavy melancholy. When his Lady Mother was still alive, Imperial Father had truly cared for him. However, ever since his Lady Mother passed away, Imperial Father had completely changed. His concern for him was filled with hypocrisy and was completely done for others to see. I think you should enter the palace less in the future. These past few years the Empress has obtained many strange poisons from the Su family. Even if you can hide for a while, you can't hide forever. Bai Songling said worriedly. Emin, I will be careful in the future. Dongfang Ke knew that Bai Songling was worried about him. He also felt that the Empress methods were becoming more and more difficult to guard against. For example, the cup of spirit wine today. He did not know what method the Empress had used to conceal the unique fragrance and sticky sweetness of the love silk grass. Not only could the silver needle not detect it, but he also did not feel any strange smell after drinking it. Until the poison took effect, he had not thought that he had been poisoned by the love silk grass. Chapter 76. Bai Songling thought of something and hurriedly asked Dongfang Ke, I heard that Yi Jioge can use needles to force out the love poison in your body, then does she have a way to cure it? She said no. Dongfang Ke recalled the 1,000-year-old snow lotus pill that Yi Jioge had mentioned and asked Bai Songling, have you heard her talk about the 10,000 feet abyss? No. Bai Songling shook her head. They weren't that familiar with Yi Jioge. Go back and check it out. Although Dongfang Ke was in a daze at the time, he could still vaguely remember that after he had consumed a pill, there had been an extremely strong life force that had awakened his life force. But looking at Yi Jioge's attitude, it seemed that he wouldn't easily tell him this secret. Just as Dongfang Ke had Bai Songling investigate the matter of Yi Jioge being transferred into the 10,000 Zhang abyss, the Empress of the Phoenix Ritual Palace was also asking the Crown Prince, did Yi Jioge really obtain some sort of treasure in the 10,000 Zhang abyss? I don't know either. I heard that she claimed that she obtained a treasure left behind by Yun Tianwei at the bottom of the 10,000 Zhang abyss. That was how she managed to recover her cultivation. The Crown Prince shook his head. He knew that it was impossible for Yun Tianwei to still be alive, and it was even more impossible for him to leave behind any artifacts in the 10,000-foot abyss for Yi Jioge, so he didn't take this matter to heart. There's no smoke without fire. Even if Yi Jioge didn't obtain Yun Tianwei's pill, he must have obtained some kind of treasure. The Empress raised her slender eyebrows. She was very dissatisfied that the Crown Prince had neglected such an important piece of information. That's what I thought at first, but when I sent people to investigate, I found that she didn't have any treasures on her. The Crown Prince hurriedly explained. He had privately sent many people to investigate, but they did not find any useful information. Later on, with the incident with Yi Yu, he stopped investigating. Even if Yi Jioge obtained the treasure, she wouldn't be able to use it openly. Send people to keep a close eye on her. If there's a chance, capture her and interrogate her properly. This consort doesn't believe that we won't be able to get anything out of her. As the Empress spoke, she scrutinized her long red nails. Her voice was calm but filled with murderous intent. She had originally wanted to spare Yi Jioge's little life, but she had courted death and stood on Dongfang Ke's side. She wanted to use the news of Yi Jioge's death to prove to everyone that being with Dongfang Ke would not end well. Yes, your son will go and do it now. The Crown Prince nodded his head respectfully. You can go and do your work now. Yi Jioge did not know that he had already been targeted by Dongfang Ke and the Empress. After she boarded the carriage, she was nagged by Mama Qing non-stop. Eldest miss, even if you want to repay Prince Dongling's kindness, you can't lose yourself in it. How can we participate in the battle between the royal families? Yes, I understand. Yi Jioge nodded perfunctorily. Big miss, this old servant doesn't care about other things, but you must listen to this old servant. Mother Qing was anxious. Previously, when eldest miss beat up the Crown Prince on the street, people would at most say that her love turned into hatred and she flew into a rage out of humiliation. She just laughed it off. But if the first young miss really stood on Dongfang Ke's side and opposed the Crown Prince, then it would be a battle between factions, and if they were not careful, they would attract a great calamity. Mother Qing, I know you care about me. But don't worry, I know what I'm doing. I definitely won't fall for it. Yi Jiuge comforted Mother Qing. The current situation was that the Empress and the Crown Prince had already determined that she was in cahoots with Dongfang Quebec. Even if she wanted to escape, it would be impossible. However, Yi Jiuge's comforting words could not make Mother Qing shut up. After returning to Purple Forest Park, Mother Qing was still incessantly advising Yi Jiuge not to play with fire. She should obediently stay at home and be a well-bred young lady. After a few years she should find a good family to marry. Yi Jiuge was extremely annoyed by Mother Qing's nagging. In order to divert her attention, she took out the spiritual tool that Dongfang Ke had given her. Mother Qing, look at what this is. Ah, where did you get this snake? Mother Qing was shocked by the silver snake in the box. This isn't a snake, this is the second-grade spiritual tool Lightning Serpent Illusion Whip. Seeing that Mother Qing was shocked, Yi Jiuge couldn't help but reveal a proud smile, like a child who had successfully pulled a prank. This is the legendary spiritual tool? Mother Qing couldn't help but widen her eyes. She looked at the small silver snake as if she was looking at a peerless treasure. She wanted to touch it but didn't dare to. Yi Jiuge picked up the whip and poured his spiritual power into it. The slumbering silver snake seemed to have woken up. It quickly grew from 3 inches to 7 feet long, and its entire body flashed with purple lightning. Yi Jiuge casually threw it at a strange stone placed in the courtyard. There was a loud bang. That huge stone turned into powder. This power was double of her usual attack. No wonder spirit practitioners wanted a spiritual tool even in their dreams. Eldest Miss, this spiritual tool is not cheap. Mother Qing was also a cultivator. Seeing such a treasure, she naturally couldn't bear to part with it. Without several tens of thousands of gold, I don't think I can get it. This was still her conservative estimate. Several tens of thousands of gold? Mother Qing's eyes widened. The most silver she had seen in her life was only a few thousand silver taels. Several tens of thousands of gold for a spiritual whip, it really opened her eyes. Come Mother Qing, you give it a try. Yi Jiuge handed the spiritual whip to Mother Qing. Although this Thunder Snake illusionary whip was most suitable for people with lightning spiritual power, other spirit practitioners could also use it. This old servant has gold spiritual power, it won't break, right? Mother Qing was a little hesitant, but her pair of eyes were tightly glued to the spiritual whip. Obviously she wanted to try it. If it could be broken so easily, it wouldn't be a spiritual tool but a glass tool. Yi Jiuge directly stuffed the spiritual whip into Mother Qing's hand, letting her feel at ease to use it. Mother Qing tried to pour a bit of gold spiritual power into the spiritual whip. She saw that the small snake turned into a golden snake, but it was much smaller than before. Its power was only 30% of Yi Jiuge's attack. Eldest Miss is more suitable to use it. Mother Qing returned the spiritual whip to Yi Jiuge with satisfaction. Only such a treasure was worthy of her family's eldest miss. Yi Jiuge was about to say that if there was a chance in the future, he would also get a good spiritual tool for Mother Qing to use. Suddenly she felt a strange feeling coming from her wrist. She quietly lowered her head and looked at the inside of her wrist. She saw that the purple mark that had already sunk into her skin suddenly floated out, and a faint purple light faintly floated inside. It was obvious that Zishang, who had been sleeping for a long time, was about to wake up. Yi Jiuge remembered that she still owed Zishang 2 kisses. Afraid that he would wake up and ask for them, she hurriedly said to Mother Qing, "I'm tired, I want to go rest first. Do you want this old servant to prepare a hot bath for you?" Mother Qing thoughtfully asked. She felt that it would be more comfortable to rest after bathing. Yi Jiuge's face darkened. He felt that Mother Qing wanted to wash her clean and send her to Zishang to taste. Chapter 77. Eldest Miss, did this old servant say something wrong? Mother Qing saw Eldest Miss's ugly expression and thought that her nagging had angered Eldest Mississippi. No. Yi Jiuge quickly shook her head and pretended to be worried. I just thought that father hasn't sent anyone to question me even though I've been back for so long. I wonder what's going on? You know that I offended Her Majesty the Empress in entering the palace this time. I'm afraid father won't forgive me. This old servant will go to the Jinyuan to find out. Mother Qing's face tightened and she immediately said nervously. Usually Master didn't like eldest young Mississippi. Now that eldest young Miss had offended the Empress and was related to Prince Dongling, Master probably wanted to eat eldest young Mississippi. She had to find out Master's movements. Yi Jiuge saw that Mother Qing had left and then walked into her room. Just as she closed the door, Zishang's demonic and impetuous voice sounded in her ears. Xiao Jioga has become bolder and bolder in this honored one's absence. Then she fell into a familiar embrace. Her nose was filled with Zishang's unique cold fragrance. Yi Jioga found that Zishang's voice was not right and quickly turned to look at him. What do you mean? This honored one should have told you not to reveal any information about the heart of the tree of God. This disobedient girl had used the heart of the tree of God to save a human prince. If he hadn't woken up in time and sealed off the presence of the tree of God, those old geezers hiding in the palace would have immediately appeared and eaten her alive. Yi Jioga looked at Zishang's cold handsome face. That pair of purple vertical pupils stared at her with suppressed anger. Under Zishang's aggressive purple eyes she felt inexplicably guilty. It was as if she was a restless woman who had been caught in the act by her husband who had returned from outside. Pa. Zishang wasn't her husband. Yi Jioga tossed that damn thought out of his mind and explained, the situation was dire at the time. If I didn't save Dongfang Ke, the empress would pin the crime of murdering a prince on my head. At that time I wouldn't be able to keep my life. Zishang's eyes narrowed as he looked at Yi Jioga. His eyes were so bright that they seemed to be able to see through everything, and he seemed to be weighing whether her words were true or not. Yi Jioga looked at him calmly and said, I am not related to Dongfang Ke, why should I risk my life to save him? At the end of the day I am only trying to save myself. Is that so? You're not related to him at all. Why would you allow him to touch you like that? Zishang's eyes revealed a dangerous aura. The heart of the tree of God was secondary. What he could not tolerate the most was a man coveting his woman. Ba, who said that big sister was willing to be touched. That's because she was infected with the love silk grass. Yi Jioga felt that he had been wronged to death. She was touched, set up, and now she was being questioned by a demon. Was there still any justice in this world? Zishang saw that Yi Jioga was so angry that her face turned red, and finally believed that she was unwilling. However, he did not want to let this disobedient girl off so easily. He moved closer to Yi Jioga's ear and asked, Then this sovereign is now infected with the love poison. Will you let him touch me? Who has the ability to poison our Zishang with the love poison? Yi Jioga rolled her eyes unceremoniously. She did not even know how to prepare a draft when lying. Who else could it be other than you? Zishang's snake tail was tightly wrapped around Yi Jioga. One of his fiery large hands was holding her waist, while the other moved up along her waistline, stopping at her abdomen. Where did he touch you? Here. Previously Yi Jioga did not feel anything when Dongfang Ke touched her. Now that Zishang touched her, she felt as if her skin was about to be scalded, and her entire body was about to be set on fire. Yi Jioga's face turned red, and she slapped Zishang's hand away. She put on a fierce expression and said, Don't touch me. This sovereign will ask you again. Did he touch you here? Zishang's hand was pressed against Yi Jioga's abdomen without moving. It's none of your business. Yi Jioga turned her head and refused to answer this damned question. Little Jioga, don't forget that you belong to this sovereign. Zishang felt that he had to make Yi Jioga realize this. If you want to sleep, just say it. Don't talk nonsense. Yi Jioga provoked intentionally. Even if she sold herself to Zishang, she did not want to be controlled by him. Stubborn little thing. Zishang's gaze darkened and a dangerous light appeared in his eyes. He reached out and sealed a few of Yi Jioga's major acupuncture points, then threw her onto the bed. Then he grabbed a silk handkerchief and firmly tied her hands to the headboard of the bed. Are you crazy? Let go of me. Yi Jioga was extremely furious. She raised her leg to kick him, but Zishang pressed her down. Be good and this sovereign will be gentler to you. Zishang's extremely beautiful face revealed an icy expression. His coldness carried a bloodthirsty allure, causing Yi Jioga's entire body to tremble. When she came back to her senses, she found that Zishang was using actions that did not match his expression. He was gently taking off her clothes piece by piece. Yi Jioga's body could not help but lightly tremble. She did not expect that Zishang, who was always smiling and would not get angry no matter what she said, would be so terrifying when he was angry. It made her, who had always prided herself as a masculine woman, scared. When all of her clothes were taken off, leaving only her underwear, Yi Jioga could clearly feel goosebumps appearing on her smooth skin. She tried hard to calm herself down and fiercely looked at Zishang. She swore in her heart. If this guy really forced himself on her, then she would cut off all ties with him and never talk to him again. Where did he touch you? Here. Zishang touched the smooth skin of Yi Jioga's abdomen as he stared at her. That's right. Yi Jioga deliberately wanted to anger Zishang, so she made a disdainful expression and said, "He touched everywhere. Are you satisfied now?" Zishang's eyes instantly darkened. But he did not get angry like Yi Jioga imagined. Instead, he lowered his head and kissed her abdomen. Then, it gently nibbled with its sharp teeth and sucked on it, leaving a red mark on it. Yi Jioga's whole body was numb from his kiss. She wanted to scold him, but her voice was as soft as cotton candy. "Don't touch me." Zishang raised his head and stared at her. His moist red lips curled up, and his hoarse voice was full of courage. "This sovereign will leave a mark on the place where you have been touched, so that you will always remember who you belong to." After that, he lowered his head and kissed her abdomen up again and again. His kiss was overbearing and wild, leaving a string of red marks on Yi Jioga's smooth skin. It was a domineering declaration of his sovereignty. Chapter 78. Zishang's kisses moved higher and higher, his strength increasing. This wasn't growing strawberries, it was practically growing carrots, and the kind that dug holes. Yi Jioga felt as if her flesh was about to split open from Zishang's mouth. That terrifying feeling caused her scalp to go numb and her entire body to tremble. She clenched her teeth and used the last of her strength to struggle, shouting, "Go away!" Zishang mercilessly pressed Yi Jioga under his body, his purple eyes emitting a cold light that was as sharp as a knife. Did he touch this place? Zishang's large palm covered her chest, his deep voice causing her to shudder. "No, no, no!" Yi Jioga shouted as she shook her head. "You really didn't?" Zishang narrowed his eyes. The cold aura emitted from his body seemed to be able to freeze the air, making it difficult for people to even breathe. "Really not," Yi Jioga said resolutely. Dongfang Ke definitely did not touch this place, at most he had accidentally pressed it. Liar. Zishang instantly saw through Yi Jioga's lie, shattering her hopes with a single sentence. He suddenly lowered his head and bit her on the mouth, rolling around heavily. Zishang's kiss was not gentle at all, it was like a wild beast gnawing on its prey, that ferocious look as if he wanted to swallow her whole. Yi Jioga even felt as if she was about to be bitten to death by Zishang. If the heavens gave her another chance, she would definitely not let Dongfang Ke take even half a step closer to her. Zishang seemed to feel her regret, finally softening his strength, like a lover gently caressing her. Yi Jioga discovered that Zishang's gentleness was even more deadly. When Zishang finally got up, Yi Jioga was already covered in a thin layer of sweat, her entire body limp on the bed. She had originally thought that she would be raped by Zishang, so she had already made all sorts of preparations to sever all ties with him and never have anything to do with him. She did not expect that all her bitterness and hatred would be kissed away by Zishang, and she even went to the Western Paradise with him. How could she still have the face to criticize Zishang? Did it feel good? Zishang laughed like a big cat that had stolen a fish. "Good my ass." Yi Jioga's face exploded. It was so red that it looked like it was about to drip blood. He wanted to kick this perverted snake to death. "Do you dare to let another man touch you next time?" Zishang lowered his head, and his warm breath blew into Yi Jioga's red ear. His tone was filled with threat. Yi Jioga really wanted to say, "Sis isn't a prostitute. Which man would touch her for no reason? Dongfang Ke was just an accident, okay?" However, Zishang obviously did not accept this reason. She couldn't afford to offend this pervert right now, so she could only nod her head sullenly. She was as obedient as a little lamb as she said, "I won't dare any more." "Good girl." Zishang caressed Yi Jioga's face and gently planted a kiss on her cheek without lust. Then he helped her loosen the ribbon on her wrists. Seeing that her wrists were red from being tied up, he even affectionately helped her massage them. Yi Jioga didn't have any strength left and could only be at his mercy. Zishang helped her put on her clothes again, and then kindly told her, "Your scumbag father is here to see you." After saying that, he returned to the mark on Yi Jioga's wrist. *CKME. Could the situation be any worse than this? Yi Jioga really wanted to cry, but no tears came out. She propped up her weak body and quickly changed into a dark green dress. Then, she splashed her face with cold water to calm down the tide of passion in her body. When she was done, Mother Qing's voice also sounded, "Eldest Miss, Master is here." "I understand. Father, please wait in the outer hall for a moment." Yi Jioga tried her best to calm her voice. "Yes, but young miss, please hurry up," Mother Qing exhorted before leaving. Yi Jioga sat in front of the dressing table and carefully checked if there was anything wrong with her. Fortunately, other than her red eyes and mouth, The black scars on her face covered up all other abnormalities. Only then did she feel relieved and leave the inner room, walking to the outer hall. At this time, Yi Yuxuan was walking back and forth in the hall with his hands behind his back. It could be seen that he was extremely anxious and depressed. When he saw Yi Jioge come out, he angrily shouted, "Rebellious girl, you dare disobey the Empress. Do you not want to live anymore?" "Father, what do you mean? Why can't your daughter understand?" Yi Jioge was too lazy to bow to Yi Yuxuan. After sitting on a chair, she signaled Mother Qing to bring a cup of tea over. She was extremely thirsty. Mother Qing quickly brought the hot tea over and used her eyes to signal Yi Jioge to talk nicely and not to talk back to the master. Yi Jioge ignored Mother Qing's gaze and drank her tea. It wasn't that she wanted to talk back to Yi Yuxuan, but he specifically came to find trouble. It wasn't her style to be scolded and not talk back. Seeing that Yi Jioge didn't put him in her eyes at all, Yi Yuxuan was so angry that his face turned ashen. He pointed at her nose and scolded, "People are about to fight their way to the door and you still have the face to drink tea here. If you want to drink, scram out. Our Yi family doesn't have a shameless woman like you." Bang. Yi Jioge heavily placed the teacup on the table and glared at Yi Yuxuan with her beautiful eyes. "How can you let people drink tea properly?" Yi Yuxuan was inexplicably shocked. When he came back to his senses, he found that he was actually afraid of this unfilial daughter. He immediately became even angrier. "Good, you still dare to put on a face with me now. Father scolded your daughter as soon as you came in. Why didn't you ask your daughter what happened in the palace? Otherwise, why would I offend the Empress for no reason?" Yi Jioge asked in a cold tone. "I don't know your virtue. You are an unruly person at home. Isn't it normal to offend people in the palace?" Yi Yuxuan was completely uninterested in Yi Jioge's explanation. "Since father knows that your daughter is an unruly person, why do you still want your daughter to enter the palace to see the Empress? Aren't you deliberately making me angry?" Yi Jioge rubbed the lines on the teacup and revealed a mocking smile. "Don't be unreasonable here. You offended the Empress and the Crown Prince this time. You must make them calm down. Otherwise, our Yi family will be dragged down by you." Yi Yuxuan said unquestionably. "Then what does father want me to do?" Yi Jioge raised her eyebrows. She wanted to see what more ridiculous things this scumbag of a father could say. The Crown Prince already said that as long as you return the purple lightning wood to him, he will be magnanimous and not bother with you. He can even let you enter the palace as a concubine." Yi Yuxuan felt that this idea was very good. Not only could it make the Crown Prince calm down, it could also get rid of Yi Jioge, this troublemaker. It was killing two birds with one stone. Previously he thought that Yi Jioge had really obtained some treasure in the 10,000 Zhang abyss, which was why he tolerated her. He didn't think that Yi Jioge would become so infuriating. Even if there was a treasure, he didn't want it. He would leave it to the Crown Prince as a thank you gift for taking away this annoying person. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.